This is one of the things that carrying
Oh my God. I played so many games with that team. I mean,
some of them are supposed to be coming, but that's not on the agenda, so that's my younger.
I just left. I know they're still in the time, but I'm doing that curve.
Okay.
Because
This one is
you can book it.
I don't think they're gonna go ahead and this is when you they got I'm tired of this spot.
Okay, cool.
So what does that mean?
If that comes into it's not going. We can vote for it. We can vote. We still can vote at the end that we'll still want to take it. Sometimes I have to put glasses on top of glasses. Yeah. Have you ever done that? Oh, okay, another one. It's so stupid. I cannot find the glasses I'm looking for, and then I finally find another pair, and I put on the top of the ones I already had, and I'm like, oh my Lord. Wow. No, we have already done it. I just got to see what I'm going to do. I am going to read.
Oh, it's warm in here, and next time, you know, we can still have all the discussion, and then
I'm going to have to.
we'll do this again. I don't know.
Yep. Sharon? Okay. Where are you? I'm going to have you lead it out. I'm going to lead it up.
Bianca, did you find out if it's Mikhail or Michael? Who? That, Mikhail Dorsey. No, I don't. One of the boys.
I take it from here. Okay, you want me to move up here or what?
I'm kidding. Stop right here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, boy.
I'll take these. You want to move or not? You want to switch these? What do you think? You let me know. It's your call. Decision.
Yeah, there's enough stuff on there. Yeah, I'll just steal jobs again.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The Monday, March 26th meeting is now in, Common Council meeting is now in session. Our invocation is by the Reverend Hugh R. Page Jr., Vice President and Associate Provost for Graduate Affairs at University of Notre Dame. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Let us pray. Creator of life, giver of grace, we are thankful for your many blessings. We know you by many names. We encounter you in the noise and distraction, the highs, lows, and crises, and unexpected surprises of the everyday. We hear your voice in the great silence when all is still. We behold your handiwork in the wonders of our universe and the recurring rhythms of this fragile planet that is our home. We sense your presence in the bracing chill of spring's first days and in the waning light of this Monday evening. Your face, revealed so clearly in the faces of our neighbors, calls to mind who and what we are. Sisters, brothers, friends and fellow travelers on a journey toward that common ground for which all human hearts long. Place of peace, place of unity. May the deliberations about to unfold in this chamber tonight empower all of us for that lifelong quest. For it is only through such shared pilgrimage and labor that we can hope to build together a community of conscience, where all are free, where none are in peril, where hatred is vanquished, and where a love as strong as death itself reigns supreme. Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. If you would, please turn your cell phones to silent. Ms. Fowler, roll call, please.
Councilmember Preston. Here. Councilmember McBride. Present. Councilmember Broden. Here. Councilmember Varner.
Present.
Vice President Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Bordy.
Present.
Councilmember Furley.
Here.
Councilmember White. Present. President Scott.
Present.
9 present.
Thank you. Report on subcommittee minutes, please.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the February 26, 2018 and March 12, 2018 meeting of the Common Council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
I make a motion to accept the report from the subcommittee on minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Special business. Ms. Fowler, would you please do a reading to 1811?
1811, a resolution of the South Bend Common Council honoring South Bend Riley boys basketball team for its success in the 2017-18 basketball season.
Thank you. Is there a presenter or presenters?
Yes, there is. For me, like everybody here. Council, I'm Oliver Davis. I'm the 6th District Councilperson. I live at 1801 Nash Street, and I'm glad to be presenting this resolution with our co-councilwoman.
Sharon McBride, Councilwoman, 3rd District, 415 East Broadway Street.
Thank
3rd
you.
District of the Riley Wildcats.
Thank you.
Everybody good? That's good. All right. You can get started.
Bill number 18-11, resolution number 4704-18, a resolution of the South Bend Common Council honoring the South Bend Riley boys basketball team for its success in the 2017-2018 basketball season. Whereas South Bend's Riley High School's 2017-18 Wildcats boys basketball team notched 26 straight wins on the way to the first undefeated regular season by a local high school basketball team since 1979. Together with sectional and regional championships. And whereas the South Bend Common Council desires that the seniors on the team, Michael Dorsey, Shamar Dillard, Demezi Anderson Jr., Harrington Greer Jr., Rylan Grundy, Marlon Taylor, and Taiwan Reed be forever remembered in the history of South Bend, despite the retirement of their posters from the Riley gym balcony. And whereas the South Bend Common Council also wishes to acknowledge the valuable contributions of the other members of the team, Trevor Fortune, Raylan Guyton, Jalen Jennings, Gabe Johnson, Jathan Spicer, and Blake Wesley, whose posters will someday hang from that same balcony. And whereas this fine group of athletes was led throughout the season by head coach Eric Brand, JV coach George Jones Jr., freshman coach Andre Owens Sr., assistant coach Landon Booker, and administrator Rodney Jennings. And
And whereas, because of the success of the team in going undefeated in the regular season and winning sectional and regional championships was a complete team effort, it bears mentioning that the team also contributed in making Demetri Anderson St. Joseph County's all-time leading scorer when the team won 75-68 over Elkhart Memorial in the Class 4A regional championship game, where he scored 18 points, thereby breaking the former record of 1,934 points set in 2013. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, as follows. Section 1. On behalf of the citizens of the South Bend and the South Bend Common Council, we proudly and publicly recognize the 2017-2018 South Bend Raleigh High School Wildcats boys basketball team for its undefeated regular season, sectional championships, and regional championships. Section 2, the South Bend Common Council also recognizes the seniors on this historic record-setting team as the fine athletes they are, and wish them all continued success in their future, both on and off the basketball court, where they can continue to do great things throughout their entire lives, motivated by the experiences and successes they have had this season. Section 3. We also remind the other members of the team of the high expectations passed down to them by the seniors, with the knowledge that they will continue to make the city of South Bend proud of Raleigh High School. Section 4. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption by the Common Council and approval by the mayor. Mr. President, we're so glad to have this. At this
Thank
time,
you. Is there anyone else from the team, coaches, would like to make a few comments?
and then we'll hear from Gavin, then we hear from some of the players. Oh, yeah.
Am I speaking down to this?
Yeah. Name and address for
Eric Brand, I'm the head basketball coach at Riley. I just want to say that it was a very special group of young men. They worked hard, they went through a lot of adversity, and I'm very proud of them. And besides what we did on the basketball court, we did all kinds of community service. We were part of the food drive over Granger community. We went to the Ronald McDonald House. We went to the homeless shelter. These young men did more than just the basketball court. They represented Riley and the community in many ways.
Excellent. Name and address, sir.
C.B. Gavin, 324 Rue Robert Lake, South Bend, Indiana. 9 months on the job as the district director of athletics for South Bend. You know, it's a blessing to be able to walk into a situation to have such a successful basketball team. To reel off 26 wins in a row, that's an achievement in itself. My first hire was Coach Grant, so when we hired Coach Grant, we asked him to set a standard, not at Riley, but in this community, for every team, for every school, student athletes, no matter what sport or what challenges they face in academics, that we meet that challenge. Going into the season, this team had an overall GPA of over 3.0. That's what we're really about. So I expect to make that trip again, but go a little further next year.
All right. Hello.
Any players?
Itty bitty bitty mo. Yeah, come on up.
Name and address, sir.
Name and address, and then go ahead.
Marlon Taylor, senior for Riley basketball. I just want to thank Coach Brand for being my coach for this year, helping us to get where we're trying to get, and for all you guys that supported us as well up there. So this is a blessing to be here, and I feel like I won Oscar Award, so thank you very much.
Andre Owens, 2205 Morris. I wanted to say something that follow up on what Mr. Gavin had kind of spoke on. He kind of said what I wanted to say. I think a lot of times, especially me being a former player at Riley High School, and also went to semi-state in 1991, but to be able to go off to college and go through some of the trials and tribulations that I had to go through the process of getting to Division I at Oklahoma State. These guys, a lot of times we get caught up in just the moment, the basketball, the sports. And a lot of times we overlook the big picture and what these guys represent. And for me, from my experience of being with them this first year, they really represent the word student athlete. I think a lot of times we overlook that because we get caught up in the hoopla. And these guys really represented not just Riley, not just the community, but they represented their families, they represented the entire city of South Bend with class and with grace. And like Mr. Gavin said, 3.0 GPA. That's something that we don't talk about enough in the forefront. And sometimes it's just talked about in the backside. And that's what I'm most proud of them as. They represent their families well. They're a good group of young men, and that's what I'm most proud of, because I know how sometimes the struggle can be to be an athlete, to be a student athlete. It's a lot of pressure to it, and they handled it well. So thank you guys, and also thank Coach Brand for bringing me aboard. I also was a candidate for the head coaching position, but he was the guy that came out with it, and I'm glad I was a part of it as the freshman head coach. So thanks, Coach Brand. Thank you to the guys, Coach Booker, Coach Jones. Good group of guys all the way around the board. So thank you guys for this evening, and keep doing what you guys are doing. Represent, man. Be leaders that you were born to be. Always remember that it's a student first and then an athlete second, and everything else will fall into place.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll turn it back to council. We'll start at the 2nd District. Any comments?
I want to say that I follow the basketball team in the news, just in the news. And I know that there was a lot of adversity and drama that this team went through at one point. So to see you guys bounce back, Coach Brand, is a credit to you, being able to block out the noise and come forward and have a focus on what's positive, what you need to do, and to have such a successful season really is a credit to all of you. I'm really excited to hear that not just have you had athletic success, but the coach has instilled in you, and you've worked together, and I'm sure your parents as well, to have a focus on service, as well as having a focus on those academics. And I'm just excited that the council members that brought this forward to give us an opportunity to highlight that piece. Was that in the resolution about the 3.0 GPA?
No.
If I could offer a friendly amendment, I would love to see that go down in history as a part of the record of what this team accomplished, and not just were they athletically gifted, but also in the classroom, on the court, and in the community. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
I would like to second that friendly amendment. The student athlete piece, thank you for bringing that tonight to our attention. You knew it all. You all put the work forward, whether it was in the court, whether it was in the classroom, outside the classroom. We were very grateful for taking care of business on this. I do think the student-athlete piece is really so important. And what you've put into this in terms of time, your talent, working on your skills, your attitude, the community service, it is so amazing when all of that actually turns into a fruit that your whole community can recognize. So thank you very much for all that you've done. I'm sure you've already have, but be sure to go back and thank your parents, your grade school coaches, your teachers all along the way. They're not standing up here with you, but I'm sure you probably agree, they certainly have been behind you and have brought you to this place. So congratulations, best of wishes as you go forward and as the other members of the team come up and try to fill your shoes. Good luck to you all, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Smith. Well, there's really only one council member here who's a true Wildcat, and that would be me, because I'm a 67 graduate. That was the old school. That was, we talk about the old school. You folks have had the benefit of the new school. We talk about your accomplishments. Congratulations for that, but realize that the accomplishments were but a result of your efforts. Whether it was education, whether it was working together as a team, working together as a family. You've met a great deal of success. Sometimes you won't always get all that success, but keep playing that role, and you'll do fine. Thank you.
Mr. Morty?
Let's see. It may not have any connection to Riley High School, but as several of us do, have connections to Indiana University, and I'm glad that part of your team's going that way. And hopefully a year from now, you'll be busy with gearing up for the Final Four. We've got great expectations. But beyond that, thank you for everything you've done and the way you've represented the community. Thank you very much.
Kevin?
No, congratulations on your accomplishments. The community is really proud. But more importantly, very excited to see what all of you do with your careers and with your lives moving forward.
Ms. White?
Okay. As a resident of the 3rd District, I keep saying that, I'm proud to say that, I am so proud of each and every one of you. I wish to acknowledge your coaches, the teachers, administrators, as well as your parents for a job well done. I can recall last year, I thought I was a cheerleader. I was in Michigan City, and when I left that game, I couldn't talk. And so, and then to watch the growth and accomplishments that you've made this year, not only are we proud of each and every one of you and those who have poured into each and every one of you, but you have set a standard for this community. And because of that, you have a lot in which to continue to uphold, and I know that you will do that. I wish to publicly thank each and every one of you for over 2 years you embraced my grandson, DJ, to the point that he has changed his hairstyle. You know, you can't touch that hair. And secondly, he is so excited about not only football, but about basketball. So remember that you're student first. To whom much is given, much is required, and you will go a long way. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You guys want to say something?
I would like to all parents and supporters to stand too.
Okay, all right.
And while they're coming, if I may,
Go ahead.
I would like to say, Dr. Varner, I coached Riley girls basketball for 17 years when we went downstate in 2002, 2003.
Okay.
And I'm a proud district chair of the 3rd District and looking forward to working with Riley for community service and projects and things that you need in that nature. So I am extremely proud of you young men and proud to have gone and watched you play throughout the season. So congratulations, coaches, and to the team, and I wish you nothing but the best in your future.
Gentlemen, I grew up in Missouri. Grew up in the St. Louis area. I've been in your spot, not as far as that you guys have gotten, but the one thing that you got to remember, and I think you guys do, as Karen White alluded to with her grandson DJ, is there are younger people watching you, and I know you guys know this, and watching you and how you act. I had the same thing back in the day, and I couldn't believe it. You know, little people that follow me around. People I run into today that said, I remember when you played basketball. And I was, by the way, one when, you know, Mr. Varner was graduating. But back in my day, you know, there was people watching me that I still have an impact on. I can't believe it. And you guys will too. So take that, set that as example. And whatever you guys do after this, all that discipline, all that repetition and what you've learned will help you in college. I know it did me as well. So, with that, Mr.
Yeah, I would like
Davis?
for all the parents to please stand for all those parents. who-
All the parents, would you please stand? Supporters. Thank you.
Without them, we wouldn't have a team, so I give credit to the parents tonight for all of their support and love and all the time that they have put into their own children. It's an honor to have children. Children are a gift. Thanks for being a gift to each one of your parents.
Thank you. I will turn it back to the council.
Public, anything to the public?
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgot democracy. At this time, we'll turn it over to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium. State your name and address.
Samuel Brown, 222, East Varsity Street, South Bend. I chased one of these myself. Matter of fact, one of the coaches' father played guard with me. And it's quite an honor to chase this thing. You guys did a remarkable job. I got tired, Riley. My daughter Jasmine was the two-time class president. She broke the ground for that new school. Had a little shovel out there through the stein and built a school on that property. And that's a remarkable thing. Let's get back to the athletics. Mr. Owens and Mr. Gavin hit on something. And I tell my grandson Kai every day I take him to school. I said, what are we doing? He said, academic All-American. I look at his grades every other day. He said it's 3.4. We ain't got to 3.5 yet, but it's important. And one more thing I want to say when it comes to community activity. You're right, these little kids are going to watch you. 50 years later, when my granddaughter went to LaSalle, they showed her my picture on the wall. And she didn't know who I was. And whatever you do, don't let your waistline get like mine. Because it's kind of embarrassing when everybody says, your daddy was on the wall, come on, look at it. And she's looking and looking like, where's he at? A lot of weight around the waist. But it's a remarkable thing when you pick, and when are you going to do that? You want to take your child back to Riley and say, that's us. And they might not recognize it if you be like me. In fact, congratulations to all of you guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I have to ask, and you got to make it past the line, anyone wish to speak against this resolution? Seeing none, we'll turn it back to council.
Motion to adopt by acclamation.
Second. Do we have to do anything about
Time out, we want to add those together.
We had a motion and a second for an amendment, a friendly amendment, to include the GPAs of the students.
All right, there's a amendment to include the GPA to this resolution, which I think is honorable, and it goes down in history, gents. This is the same, this goes into the records as all the records of the city government from 1865 to present. So I accept, anyone will make a motion on the amendment?
Take a vote.
And a second.
Voice vote.
Oh, a second. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We will get you new copies.
Motion to adopt by acclamation.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Passes. Best of luck. Congratulations.
Congrats. Good job. Nice work. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Good to see you. Nice job. Great job. Great accomplishment speech, too.
Keep working. University.
Great job. Congrats. Thank you. Congrats. Nice job. Congratulations to you.
Go ahead. Just go ahead.
He's a rock star.
Okay.
Top the box, he can read it. Not anymore. That's why I need a knee replacement.
Where'd the coach? And then there's a photographer.
We'll send them.
Back pages, maybe, all you? Because I know. It's not on the back page, it's a front page. It needs to be done. It's worth it.
It is.
Are you photobomb? Those guys are.
I got it. We're gonna sweep the building in.
I thought about every single one.
You know what?
I do every single one.
Our city clerk, Riley.
A little bit of order there. Thank you all for coming. At this time, it's reports from city offices. We will not have any reports from city offices. Laura O'Sullivan from the city mayor's office is representing. Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to rise to the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. What you need to... Excuse me.
The Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where the full council meets as a committee. During each ordinance, members of the public will have an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition. Your comments will be limited to 5 minutes per bill. With that, would the city clerk please read 0818?
0818, public hearing on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property generally located at northwest and northeast corners of Western and William and the southwest corner of Wayne and William, Councilmanic District Number 2 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Zoning and Annexation Committee met, and we bring this bill to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Good evening, Angela Smith from the Area Plan Commission with offices located on the 11th floor of this building. The petitioner is seeking to rezone the property outlined here in red on the screen. It essentially makes up parts of two different blocks within the city near the intersection of Western and William and Wayne Streets. Currently, the property is zoned GB General Business and a small portion is zoned MU Mixed Use. As you can see here, the majority of the area is zoned CBD Central Business District or mixed use throughout the blocks. This would bring the western block into MU Mixed Use and the eastern block to CBD to be consistent with the zoning from the area. The site is currently vacant for the majority of the site, although a portion of it is occupied by the former parking lot for the Gates Chevy dealer, as well as the Veterans Clinic. As you can see in both these images. So the images here highlight the total area to be rezoned in this petition. There is no site plan for this petition because there's no proposed development at this point. They would just meet the MU Mixed Use District or Central Business District standards at the time of development. This comes to you from the Area Plan Commission with a favorable recommendation. Rezoning these sites to MU Mixed Use District and CBD Central Business District would correspond to and enhance the surrounding properties and trends in the area. I'm happy to answer any questions.
At this time, would the petitioner like to make any comment?
Hello, Tim Corcoran, Director of Planning, 14th floor of this building. I just wanted to reiterate some of the things that Angela said. A lot of this is really just cleaning up what is sort of a bit of a messy situation and a holdover from the past. The GB uses really wouldn't be consistent with the type of development that's happening in the area and the type of development we'd like to encourage in the future. So we would like to have your support on this, and if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them if I can. I did get an answer to part of your question, Joe, earlier today. The Fred's transmission block was acquired for $250,000 with $44,000 of remediation and $186,000 of demolition. So that's $481,174 in total invested in the Fred's transmission block. The Gates block, on the other hand, was made up of multiple different blocks, and we weren't able to pull this part out of the bigger picture of what was part of the Gates area. So we can still look into that when one of our other members of the team gets back.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions for presenter or petitioner from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 0918?
0918, public hearing on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and seeking a special exception for property located at the east side of Olive Street between Calvert Street and Delaware Street, Councilmanic District Number 6 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Is there a committee report?
Yes. The zoning annexation committee met, and we bring this to you with a favorable recommendation.
No recommendation.
No recommendation.
No recommendation.
Oh.
That's okay. Is there a presenter, please?
Good evening, Angela Smith from the Area Plan Commission with offices located on the 11th floor of this building. Petitioner is seeking to rezone the portion along Olive Street here located between Delaware and Calvert. To the north are more property zoned LI Light Industrial. To the east and south, you have property zoned SF2 single family and two family, and to the west are residential property zoned SF1. Here's an image of the existing building looking south from the corner of Calvert and Olive. You can see the towing business operating here, this building with the screening that you see there. And then looking north on Olive, you can see the remainder of the site. This is probably a clearer image of how the site is being used. The southern portion had been used as a towing operation for quite some time, and as property became available, they expanded and grew to the north. The petition here is to rezone it to GI General Industrial, which is the lowest zoning classification that allows for the towing yard, and seeking a special exception for the towing facility, as well as a special exception to have more than 50% of the site contain the outdoor storage. Consider the cars to be outdoor storage as opposed to parking in this case because they're there for a longer period of time. The site plan is not proposing any changes at this point. The two buildings that are remaining on the site would stay, with the site continuing to operate as you see it here in this image. The rezoning comes to you with a favorable recommendation subject to a written commitment to limit the permitted uses to those found in the LI Light Industrial District, plus the wrecker/towing service. Rezoning the site to GI General Industrial will follow the trends and uses north of the site, and then the special exception comes to you with a favorable recommendation as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a petitioner? Please state your name and address and provide a brief summary of the project.
My name is Paul Walters, 1906 South Olive Street, South Bend, Indiana. So we're not quite sure why we're here. We've been at that site for a long time, and something along the way got missed. But we do all the towing for the city of South Bend at this point. They've eliminated the other companies, and we're number one. So that's what we do.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council for presenter or petitioner at this time?
How long have you been in operation at the site, please?
10 years.
So this rezoning issue then goes back 10 years? Would that be correct?
Well, we have been getting
Staff?
licenses and business licenses all the way up till this year. When we filed this year, there was a glitch or something had happened where they said that we had fell through the cracks. But 10 years of being in business, establishing business there, and then this year, so we're following along.
Thank you.
Okay.
Seeing no other questions, we'll move to the... Oh, sure.
Office manager.
Please state your address as well.
1906 South Olive, Indiana.
Thank you.
When we first started the contract with the city, it was a requirement that we have parking for 30 vehicles. That was an unrealistic number once towing went from 5 companies down to 1 company. So we have had to expand, and we've made a tremendous amount of cleanup in that area. But room for 30 cars was really unrealistic. We have more like 300 cars. They're on a rotating basis. They're not there all the time. We don't take cars apart there. We don't crush cars. Nothing that would involve any kind of noise. And we have acquired a new site to start moving some of those vehicles out so that it's not such a crushed area.
We also weren't prepared for what came through over the winter time. We had a big influx of cars that were abandoned on the city streets that we took in a lot more than we had planned on bringing in.
The state law requires that we hold on to, we physically have the vehicles available for 30 days. At 30 days, we can move them from our site to a holding site. But because of the state law, we have to leave them there that long. And we do move them out. That 30th day hits, and they're going to the other site so that we can keep flow going through there. Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing no additional questions, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Is there a recommendation from the council?
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 1518?
1518, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, for budget transfers to various departments within the City of South Bend, Indiana, for the year of 2018.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting and public hearing on Bill 15-18, and we sent it to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Good evening, Council. Jen Hockenhall, City Controller, office is on the 12th floor of this building. The bill before you tonight is one of 4 that we do every year on a quarterly basis. Tonight we are asking for transfers within the funds on this bill. The first one being for the Lowit 2016 special distribution, simply moving money from our capital to our transfers out so that we can use that money directly towards the community crossings program that you'll see in the next bill. We also are asking for some monies to be moved around in our COIT funds, specifically related to the Goodwill Strategic Focus Unit, and then also moving monies within our equipment and vehicle lease just to make sure that we are appropriately linking them to the different departments instead of just as one big bucket.
Thank you so much. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council.
Move 1518 to the full council favorably.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 1618?
1618, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city service operations in 2018 of $37,500 from the Studebaker Oliver Revitalization Grant Fund 209, $10,000 from Central Services Fund 222, $900,000 from the Liability Insurance Reserve Fund 226, $2 million from the Local Road and Bridge Grant Fund 265, $20,000 from Parks Non-Reverting Capital Fund number 405, and $91,412 from the 2015 Park Bonds Capital Fund 751.
Motion to accept the sub.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Is there a committee report?
Yes, Personnel and Finance heard Substitute Bill 16-18, and we sent it to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Jen Hockenhall, City Controller, office is on the 12th floor of this building. Before you tonight is a request for additional appropriations out of various funds. Please note that all of these funds have adequate cash balances to cover the request this evening. The first 2 for Fund 209 and 222 are both for grant monies that we have received in. We're just appropriating those funds out at this time. For the Liability Insurance Reserve Fund is $900,000 relating to bringing our reserve or our spending reserve back up to our normal levels due to some budget cuts that we made in 2017. But at the request of our legal department after review, we've decided that we would just like that money back up to where it's been in the past. Local road and Bridge Grant Fund is relating back to that community crossings grant I spoke of in the last bill. We're asking to spend the full amount of the grant, but it's a 50-50 match grant, so we have to spend $2 million, and then we'll get $1 million back roughly. And then the Parks Non-Reverting Capital Fund for $20,000 relates to replacing some aging equipment from the capital fund. And then our 2015 Parks Bond Capital is requesting to spend the remaining proceeds from the 2015 Parks Bond.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council.
I move the substitute bill 16-18 be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Before the city clerk reads the next bill, I just want to make a quick note that Resolution 1812 has been continued. I know that's something we typically address at the beginning of council meetings, but just notice that. So 1812 has been continued. If you're here for that bill, that will be on the agenda in 2 weeks. With that, would the city clerk please read 1718?
1718, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and enterprise operations in 2018 of $77,000 from the Parking Garage Fund 601, $52,250 from Waterworks OM Fund 620, and $20,000 from the Century Center Capital Fund 671.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the sub.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee heard substitute bill 17-18. We sent it to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Jen Hockenhall, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor of this building. Before you is a bill for our enterprise funds. We're asking for $77,000 from our parking garage fund to cover utilities that weren't originally budgeted in our line item budget, as they were previously paid from the block-by-block contract that we had, so we're just asking to appropriate those. Our Waterworks Operation and Maintenance Fund of $52,250 relates to the fact that we have to transfer money from our operating fund into effectively a reserve fund just to keep up with our bond covenant requirements. So that's simply transferring it from one waterworks fund to another waterworks fund. And then the last is Century Center Capital. We're asking to appropriate $20,000 just to spend down the S&G contribution that they gave us for capital back in 2013.
Thank you so much. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to send sub 1718 to full council favorably.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 1818?
1818, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 2, Article 14 of the South Bend Municipal Code to establish new funds. Fire Station Number 9, Debt Service Fund 350, Fire Station Number 9 Capital Fund 451, 2018 TIF Parks Bond Debt Service Fund 351, and 2018 TIF Parks Bond Capital Fund 452.
Is there a committee report, please?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee heard bill 18-18. We sent it to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Jen Hockenhall, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor of this building. The bill before you is simply asking to set up 4 funds for bonds that have been previously approved by the council. We're just setting up the funds so that we can receive the funds in from the state and then spend the money out on the capital projects.
Cool. Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council.
Make a motion to send 1818 to the full council favorably.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. I will entertain a motion to rise and resolve from the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Council is now back in session. Ms. Fowler, would you please give third reading to 0818?
0818, third reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property generally located at the northwest and northeast corners of Western and William and the southeast west corner of Wayne and William, Councilmanic District Number 2 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Move for passage of Bill 0818.
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Barner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 0918, please.
0918, third reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and seeking a special exception for property located at the east side of Olive Street between Calvert Street and Delaware Street, Councilmanic District Number 6 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Barner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1518.
1518, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana for budget transfers for various departments within the City of South Bend, Indiana for the year of 2018.
Move for passage of Bill 15-18.
Second. Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Barner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1618, please.
1618, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city service operations in 2018 of $37,500 from the Studebaker/Oliver Revitalization Grant Fund number 209, $10,000 from the Central Service Fund 222, $900,000 from the Liability Insurance Reserve Fund 226, $2 million from the Local Road and Bridge Gap Fund 265, $20,000 from the Parks Non-Reverting Capital Fund of 405, and $91,412 from the 2005 Parks Bond Capital Fund 751.
Motion for passage?
Second. Point of order. I need a motion to accept as it was in,
Committee of the
amended as it was in the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Now, Mr. Furley.
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Barner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1718.
1718, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and enterprise operations in 2018 of $77,000 from the Parking Garage Fund 601, $52,200 from the Water Works OM Fund 620, and $20,000 from the Century Center Capital Fund 671.
Motion to amend as it was in the committee of the whole?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Barner.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1818.
1818, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 2, Article 14 of the South Bend Municipal Code to establish new funds. Fire Station Number 9, Debt Service Fund 450, Fire Station Number 9, Capital Fund 451, 2018 TIF Parks Bond Funds, Service Fund 351, and 2018 TIF Parks Bond Fund Capital 452.
Move for passage.
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Barner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. We will move to resolutions. Ms. Fowler, would you please give reading to 1803?
1803, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for property located at 915 27th Street.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, committee report.
Committee report, the zoning annexation committee met, bring this to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Now is there a presenter?
Good evening, Angela Smith from the Area Plan Commission with offices located on the 11th floor of this building. The petitioner is seeking to a special exception for a child caring institution, which is a state-regulated naming of an institution that cares for individuals, which the petitioner can speak more on, for the existing or previously used nursing home facility there on 27th Street. And it would also apply to the small parking lot on the site and adjacent to the property. The site does have an existing former nursing home on it. The existing building would be reused by the petitioner. There would not be any proposed additions or reconstruction of the site. The site plan just essentially reflects what's there now, the existing 9,500 square foot building and the parking lot to the rear of the building. This comes to you from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions for the petitioner at this point? Is there a presenter?
I was going to say for the presenter. but that's
Petitioner.
it.
Presenter, I'm sorry. Petitioner. If you would, state your name and address and a brief summary of the project.
Good evening, council members. Good evening, citizens of South Bend. My name is Dr. Bill Brunsma, 3116 West Lane, South Bend, Indiana. It is my pleasure to be here tonight seeking a special use for a child caring institution in the OB office buffer district for the property located at 915 27th Street, City of South Bend. Rite of Passage intends to operate a group home to serve up to 12 male youth between the ages of 14 and 21. The young men considered for this home must have first completed a residential treatment program, desire to be at this group home, and have no other suitable living arrangement that would allow them to return home at this time. Each young man will be expected to be at school, either in DePaul Academy, a community high school, a college, or a vocational school, have part-time employment within the community, and be part of community service events. As I have stated many times in my meetings with the Neighborhood Association and the Business Association, each young man will be taken to and picked up from school, escorted to their part-time employment, supervised by staff while providing community service or at any time within the community. The minimum staffing ratio within the Woodford home will be 1 to 4. The services received at this home will be guided by a collaboratively developed service plan, which will include case management services, individual and family therapy, and positive skill development groups. The emphasis of the treatment will be on developing psychosocial and independent living skills so that the young man develops the ability to live independently within the community. In addition to the group living staff, the home will be directed by a program manager, a unit manager, a case manager, and a therapeutic manager. I will have an office there, as well as regional support staff. A janitor slash cook will also be hired to assist the young men in caring for the home and learning how to cook for themselves and others. The caring philosophy behind the operation of the home is to provide normalized experiences to each young man so that he may improve his life. I and the Rite of Passage staff realize how difficult the mission of improving the lives of youth is on a daily basis. Sacrifice and hard work is modeled by the staff for our young men, and we expect the same from them. Selfishness and everything that represents that lifestyle must give way to thinking about others. That is why the Woodford Home will be dedicated to serving the River Park community in particular and the South Bend area as a whole. A follower of Vincent de Paul had a motto that he encouraged others to live by. Be good, do good, be a force for good. Residential treatment focuses on how to be good and how to do good. The Woodford Home will build on that foundation by giving young men opportunities to continuously do good, by such learn who they are as a person and how they can be a force for good in their communities. I note in preparing for tonight, one of the values espoused by the City of South Bend is inclusion. The dictionary definition of inclusion is the act of including someone in something. In this context, inclusion takes on a deeper meaning. Inclusion puts the concept and practice of diversity into action by creating an environment of involvement, respect, and connection. Our young men at the Woodford Home want to be included into a community, and we desire that the community be part of our functioning. We want to be your best neighbors. Therefore, as I stated many times in the last few weeks, we will establish a community advisory board that will assist us in staying true to our mission and developing opportunities to serve the community. We will be connecting with local employers in an effort to hire our young men so that they will learn life and work skills, and we'll be reaching out to the community to hire staff that will be devoted to the mission of improving the lives of youth. Finally, I just want to thank everyone who has contacted us within the past several weeks that have expressed support and offered assistance. It is much appreciated. I want to thank the City Council for considering this issue and ask that you support granting the special use so that we can open the Woodford Home. May I note that it is no coincidence that your vote comes at the beginning of Holy Week. This is a sacred time for many in our community, and thus I pray you vote to do the good and right thing for the community and our young men. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Council, are there any questions for the petitioner?
There were some things that came up in council that I think should be brought up here. There was a question about how many young folks you have, and is there any plan or possibility to expand that number? That's one question.
So in terms of the bed capacity, there is no plan to expand that bed capacity at Woodford Home. It is 12 beds. It's licensed. It will be licensed by the Department of Child Services for 12 beds.
My second question is, what's the demographic of your clientele?
So the demographic is, and I asked Mr. Shipman, he'll be talking later, he's the program director of the Hall Academy. We have 40% African American, 40% Caucasian, and 20% Hispanic or Latino heritage.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other council member questions? Vice President Davis.
What have you done to address issues that have been in conflict with your views and stuff? So, could you please share that?
Yes, thank you for that question, Councilman. I have gone to a couple of neighborhood association meetings. I've gone to the business association meeting. I've met with the head of the business association, Dave Newfer, to discuss the project. I've given people time to come over and tour the facility after the business meeting that day, and I've answered any questions that have been brought up to us, and I sought out questions from everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. White?
Yes, I do have a question. One, I would like to thank you for your willingness to meet with not only the neighbors, the business community, and others as well. What have been some of the common themes you've heard from the business community and from the neighbors?
Well, some of the business...
In terms of their concerns.
Okay, so I'll start, I'm always kind of a positive person, so I'll start the positive side. In terms of, we've had business people come up and say they will support us. I gave you an example of that, during the committee meeting earlier this afternoon, like a businessman saying to us that he will buy the Y passes for our boys if the Woodford home opens. The concerns, I think, were mainly from people not understanding the nature of what we were going to do. I think they associated it with past group homes that were not well supervised in the past in the community. They had a misconception of what type of child we were going to take in there and what the level of supervision was going to be. I think after answering a lot of their questions, I think a lot of people were swayed by knowing that we will supervise the young men well and that we'll be engaged in the community.
So at this point, you feel you have more support?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Mr. Horty.
Could you just briefly describe a day at Woodford Home? Is it, how regimented is it? Are the 12 young men there able to come and go? Are they able to have guests? The ones who are old enough to drive, if they have licenses, can they have cars? Or what would life be like there?
Okay, so we want as normalized an experience as possible. So you have to get up, do your chores, and then you get ready, go to school. If it's a school day, you're going to school. So where would you go to school? Well, if you're going to college, you're going to go to IUSB, you're going to Ivy Tech, or one of the local colleges, or a vocational school. If you're still working your high school diploma, depending on your case manager and what your probation officer might say, you might be going over to DePaul, or you're going to a community high school. Then you will go to school. We will take you to school. We'll pick you up from school just like any prudent parent would. And then it'll be a time where we'll be looking over the schoolwork. Then there'll be some recreational activities. Then it'll be preparation for meal. There'll be study time. There's a group time, just basically around how are we living as a community together. There'll be a group on psychosocial skills development that we will continue. And, skills as how to listen to others, how to be respectful, things like that. To answer your question, there will be no student there that will be licensed to drive. They might get their license, but they will not have cars and they will not be driving.
What about guests?
Yes. So we'll have visitation times for their families and people to come over. They will be supervised. The young men will not go out in the community unless they're supervised by our staff. And we, as I said earlier on, the ratio is 1 to 4, which is the highest ratio under DCS that they'll provide for us in terms of supervising our young men.
So if they're in their day-to-day activities, when they're away from the home, whether it's school or going to the Y or something like that, young men develop, they might get a girlfriend somewhere along the way, or want one. And how do you monitor that sort of thing?
So we have a case manager and we have a therapist. I think you can go back to your days when you were a teenager. There's always, possibly some girlfriend issues you want to talk over with your dad or your mom. You didn't talk over with your dad, Mom? Well, sometimes that happens. Of course, I didn't date when I was a teenager either, but there'll be people available to help them get through those usual milestones in life. And that's what we're there for. We act as prudent parents for them, and we want to support them and provide them those opportunities.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Joe Broden.
Thank you for bringing this petition before the council. Just a couple quick questions. Could you just go over your discipline policy and how you deal with complaints if there were to be some that arise from the neighborhood?
Okay, so we have internal discipline in our own student code of conduct. I think our students that are here today are probably the best to tell you about the student code of conduct, but there are certain prescribed consequences for violating student code of conduct, which will be implemented. Of course, all the case plans for these young men have to be approved by their caseworker, either for DCS or through the courts by probation. So that always is in discussion with people. It's never outside of discussion with others. Can I answer everything?
And then, if there are issues, there are disciplinary hearings, correct?
Yeah, it's correct.
And who serves on those hearing
Staff,
boards? What's that
usually-
usually comprised of?
Usually the program manager, the unit manager, and probably the therapist or the case manager.
Okay, and then if I might ask, there were certain security devices that had existed while this was a long-term care facility, specifically an Alzheimer's unit. Could you please address whether those will be in operation or not?
There will be an operation. Cameras will be fully operational. 15-second delay bars will be in operation as per state licensing.
And you had said that, I believe that there would be an opportunity for individuals to be on your community, or on your advisory board?
That is correct.
And is there an advisory board plus a board? So are there
No.
two different, or is that one and the same?
One and the same. Advisory board is one and the same. We invite members of the community to apply to be on the advisory board, as well as the businesses around us. Obviously, we'd like the businesses to be able to hire our young men.
Now, would you be open to community members serving on the disciplinary board? Or is that...
Well, there's an issue of confidentiality.
Okay.
That we have to run that by our licensing.
Okay, fair enough. And then, if I might ask, with regard to regulatory compliance from the state level, who provides oversight to you, and how often, how frequently?
Okay, so the Department of Child Services does, I believe, 3 audits on us every year. One is contract audit, license audit, and clinical services audit.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question.
Dr. Burns. Well, I'm sure everyone enters this hoping for the best. When you have a client who is disruptive or is a problem or is maybe leaves when they're not supposed to, and then becomes an issue in the neighborhood, while you have your internal affairs, so to speak, the ideal. I mean, how do you deal with that? Is this a chance, or is this at some point it's like we can't, because of these disruptive things, we aren't able to provide you these services any longer, and another effort is sought? I mean, could you explain to us what that might be?
Sure, that's a good question. We tend to be very, God bless you, very proactive in, managing situations like that. We do not allow things that are of wealth, basically I call it health, welfare, safety issues to be prolonged. So we take action fairly quickly, and that's usually in concert with the child's case manager or their probation officer.
Okay, hang on. Vice President Davis?
Couple of things. In your mind, what makes this the best location for you? And even prior to that question, back to the, John Vordy's question in terms of their regular day activities, will anybody be allowed to have online high school or online college kind of situations where they will be at the building all day?
They could, if we're set up for that, just to answer that piece of it. So, what's the other piece of your question? I'm sorry.
In terms of what makes this the best location for your, in our area, what made you choose this location?
So, in looking for locations around the county, we have to keep in mind that licensing wants us to be in a neighborhood so that the young man can be part of the community. So that's one thing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to be licensed. The second thing is, I think it was just a blessing that we found this building, because as you toured the building, as other people have seen the building, it has great space in it. for young men, and young men need space, okay, in order to do things, be, together, that kind of thing. So there's enough space in there for my staff and myself and the young men to have kind of a normal life. It has a dining room where I can fit everyone around a big table and to have a family dinner and to eat together. So that was there for us. I quite honestly believe, and it's very close to where I live too. I don't live in River Park, but I live fairly close to that, we could really make an impact on this community and be of service. And just like our other group homes and our other programs around the country, we really try to involve the community and try to be of service to our immediate community.
Thank you.
Ms. Broden?
Yes. To follow up on your comment about this state preferring this, if you would, to be in a neighborhood, please address from your standpoint why the state looks for a neighborhood environment. Why is that so critical, and what is the alternative, perhaps?
Well, first of all, a lot of our young men need to learn how to be good citizens, and you need to have interaction with people, normal people, and in normal situations. Now, everyone comes upon certain adversity in their life. There are certain challenges that come up, and that's good because we learn from our adversity. We learn from the mistakes that we make during those times. That's very, very important. If we place them in an area where they're not going to come in contact with anybody, not going to be with people, how are they going to learn to practice their interpersonal skills that they learned during their residential treatment? They need an opportunity like that. And quite honestly, when I had Department of Child Services representatives come and look at the building, they loved it in terms of the fact that there were so many, we're just right off of Mishawaka Avenue, that there were a lot of businesses that our young men could apply to and be part of. I even had one of the business owners say to me after the day after the business meeting, he said, I'd be glad to have several of your boys here. We need your young men to help us.
Ms. McBride?
I have two questions. What type of background do the young men have, like as far as being referred for probation?
So you have some young men that have been referred through the Department of Child Services and are wards of the state. And then there are some young men that come through probation, they've made mistakes, and they need to learn from their mistakes.
Second question, what is the average length of stay for a client?
Well, we haven't operated Woodford Home yet, so I don't know what the average length of stay would be. I can tell you our residential stay is anywhere from 9 to 12 months. There'd be some outliers that might lead us to longer length of stay and some shorter. Remember, this home is for young men that don't have a place to go. So if a young man wants to stay there, and he wants to stay there, and that's the thing about this, he has to want to stay there. That, I'm not going to let him out on the street unless he's prepared, to take care of himself, has an education, and has some money in his pocket so he can be successful in this world.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Dr. Varner, then.
How many facilities does Rite of Passage operate nationally?
About 42 programs right now. The facilities range from anywhere from shelter care, the group homes, residential treatment, to correctional facilities, deep-end correctional facilities, both for males and females.
Thank you.
Dr. Varner?
Nice. Joint question. Thank you.
Any other questions? This side? Nope. Thank you. At this time, we'll open up to the public. This is the public wishing to speak in favor. Each individual has 5 minutes each. You have to give your name and address. Kevin Furlick will time you. And after that, there will be time for those wanting to speak against. If you please, line up, and then if you would, sign the clipboard so we have it for the record. Your name and address. If you line up along the back wall, will be great.
Repeat statements. Repeat statements, just ask for it.
And if you have repeat statements, please raise your hand so we can see that. What we're looking for here tonight is new information. So if you're hearing repetitive, we'd like to move on to original statements. With that, after those speaking in favor, those wishing to speak against will be given the same 5 minutes. And it can go as long as the number of people have spoke here, but each individual only has 5 minutes. So with that, are you ready, Gavin?
Yep.
All right. Sir, name and address.
My name is Samuel Brown. I live at 222 East Navarre Street in the city of South Bend. I have a watchdog group called the Citizens United for a Better Government. I really like this idea because I go and mentor kids myself, in and out of high school, homes, and a lot of these kids, they got a diverse group from what it says. And I like to go and visit it because there are situations where people need to have something like this. Nothing is perfect. Remember that. Every question you guys ask could come up. But hopefully they got a game plan. And I hope that the council will really take this in consideration and pass it. Because I'm out there every day, from my school system to our city, and there are people in need of something like this. So really, think seriously about this, and keep remembering, there's nothing perfect, but we gotta try. We gotta try. We can't keep turning our back on it. And I wish him a lot of luck, and I got my business card, and I hope that the gentleman will give me a chance to visit it, because like I said, I'm out there every day running across a situation like this. And I wish him all the luck, and I pray that it's a success.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Next, name and address.
Phil Neiswanger, 741 South 30th Street, a South Bend resident for over 60 years. Dear City Council and citizens and business members of River Park as well as South Bend, I am President Pro Tem of the River Park Neighborhood Association, and I'm also a retired school teacher from Trinity and Marion High Schools, and also served as assistant principal, dean, as well as enrollment manager at Ivy Tech and Davenport Universities locally. I also spent years as an employment counselor and human resource coordinator in northern Indiana, and several years served on the Governor's Board of Employment. In addition to the 45 years, I was a scout leader in various capacities, director of youth and adult leadership development programs, as well as scoutmaster for 2 inner-city troops, one in South Bend and one in Washington, D.C. I've also served for nearly a quarter of a century as one of the first neighborhood crime watch captains in South Bend, and for the last 8 years with the South Bend PD, I've been a neighborhood crime watch captain network coordinator for all of River Park and the 135 captains serving therein. Also, I was safety chair in the River Park area for the Neighborhood Association. And to add to this credentialing, I was honored, along with Charles Martin, to receive the first of 2 50 Youth Leadership Investment Awards from the state of Indiana. So with that, I certainly give my endorsement to them. But I've also personally experienced the rite of passage home base in Nevada, where they had 8 career tracks, and one was EMTs. And in the state of Nevada, in the first 15 years, 80% of the EMTs serving the state of Nevada were graduates of ROP. And 5 of them became medical doctors. A great program. That's level 2. We're talking about now level 3, something new. Rite of Passage also has served South Bend for 20 years. with good success. So we're not talking about an incarceration institution. We're talking about graduates of 2 levels, and they're ROP graduates. You can see some of the Ram logo shirts on. Great program. I highly recommend the Woodford Home, which is level 3, that will serve the advanced graduates of the most effective youth development program of the United States based on my experience. At level 2, if you want to have a state-level athletics championship, ROP has had more state championships on regular, across the board in the country. If you want a state championship, have an ROP program. If you want a leadership development, character, and excellence program, unless you want to put everybody on a farm and raise them from youth on up, ROP will beat that except for farming level. So I encourage you to accept this program. Locally, for example, the University of Notre Dame is also a partner with them. River Park and South Bend, but River Park will be a safer place because of their presence, because they have character examples. And I really recommend that. Also, they'll be helping out with our cleanup day on April 28th, and they'll be part of our River Park Parade on May 19th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address. Come on up.
Jim Boshier, 1000 South Michigan Street. I worked for Rite of Passage for 2 years. I operated and supervised a group home in Colorado that's very similar to this. The difference between the Woodford home and this place is these kids are going to want to be there versus Colorado where some of them had no choice. That was the only step down they had. My experience in the group home in Colorado was that the students wanted to be a part of the community and they demonstrated behavior change and they wanted to make amends for the mistakes that they made when they were younger men. And they also wanted to learn how to be independent. They were very valuable to the community, specifically working with the senior citizens, veterans, local charitable organizations, as well as local business and government organizations. They're Boy Scout members. Annually, we always had employers asking us, how many kids are we getting this year? We worked in ski resorts, restaurants, everywhere, and every year, they always expected 2 to 10 kids coming because they knew they could rely on these kids. The Woodford Home, these students make similar contributions and have rigorous treatment program to even earn the right to become a member of the program on top of wanting to be there. They'll be under strict supervision at all times, someone like myself as well. And they will never be out in the community without supervision. And they'll be held to a high standard, be expected to leave the Woodford home and the community a better place than they found it. And I believe they will be an asset to South Bend, Mishawaka area. And you guys will be better for it if you approve this.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Janice Swindle, 20185 Dice Street, South Bend. I'm here representing a group of employees from Mossberg and Company who have interacted with this group numerous times. Some of my co-workers were unable to be here tonight due to work schedules, but their names are Ricky Reynolds, Pete Marcinko, Don Beaver, Danita Nagron, Dick Sullivan, Jim Aldridge, Gene Crumlish, Ed Oman, Jim Rigney, Jim Cummins, Dan Brock, Gary Beaver, and myself. Our employees have a donation-led team located at 301 East Sample Street, and we were introduced to the DePaul Academy and the cadets back in February of 2017. As their neighbor to the north, we were moved by their stories, their success at supporting and coaching young men into responsible, outstanding community members. Since February of 2017, we have invited their cadets to Mossberg numerous times. We've done tours and shown them our work environment. We have spent hours working side by side with these young men to build picnic tables at their facility and packing food at the Northern Indiana Food Bank. We have found them to be responsible, respectful, polite, and genuine. Their questions and casual comments demonstrate their yearning for a fair chance at a good life. After having personally encountered them over a dozen times, they are exemplary young men that have been given the tools to improve or counter their situations, and they are driven to hold themselves to higher standards. We have taken these young men into our hearts, and we see the difference this group is making, and I would love to see it continue. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, name and address.
My name is Josh Pagewood, and I work here in South Bend at 3402 South Locust Road. My house is actually in Michigan, just across the border, but for the past 13 years, my wife and I have chose to do life and work in South Bend. I'm a college grad. I have a Bachelor's of Science from Michigan State University, so go Big Ten. Wish we could have done better in the tournament. I'm a business owner of 16 years, and the most important titles that I have are husband, father, and son. A man much smarter than I once said, "Let your heart feel for the affliction and distress of everyone. Let your hand give in proportion to your purse, remembering always the estimation of the widow's mite." That was said in January 15th, 1783 by George Washington. Today we're 235 years later, but we experience the same opportunities here. We have the opportunity to feel the affliction of the young men of Rite of Passage, to acknowledge the real distress and concerns of maybe some members of the community. All the while, we need to give the opportunity to everyone in our community to succeed whenever we have the power to do so. Each week, the young men of RLP have the opportunity to choose to go to a local church. A lot of the time they choose to do so, and every 2 weeks they attend the same church that I do. A large percent of our church is between the ages of 65 and 85 years old. And so it's an older church, if you will, and we're known for that, but also known for being a family. And these guys have come in and made their impact there. Without fail, on the off weeks that they're not there, someone in our church, one of the senior members, always comes up to the staff and asks, "Where are Dr. B's boys? Where are the guys from Rite of Passage?" And so they've made themselves part of our church home. And we love having them there and love seeing them every week. Just to close and keep it short, when I was 8 years old, my family broke apart. Thankfully, my grandparents took myself, my brother, and my mother into their home, and we were able to live there until we got on our feet again. Without their home and their support, my life today would not be near what it is now. I ask that today, through Rite of Passage, the Woodford Home, that the South Bend Community Council would make the decision to give these young men a chance to be able to say the same thing, to say, without the Woodford Home, my life would not be where it is today. Thank you for your time today and your consideration.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rochelle Simon. I live at 122 Lewis Hall. I'm a rector at the University of Notre Dame, which means it's my permanent home. I live with the women there, and I also work part-time for the Center for Social Concern at the university, and we have a program called Mercy Works, where students go out in groups and work with community partners, and DePaul Academy has been one of those partners. We have students go out on Saturday and do an art class for the students there at DePaul, and I've just been really impressed. The students have had a great time, and I imagine our partnership to be continuing in the Woodford Home and even be growing. So I brought one of the students as well, who's going to speak about her time there as well.
Thank you. Name and address.
Hello, my name is Molly Lincoln. As Rochelle said, I live in Lewis Hall at the University of Notre Dame. I go to DePaul Academy once a week, and we do arts and crafts with the boys. We've made piñatas, we've done poetry. Just last weekend we decorated Easter eggs, and I don't know how many high school boys you know that enjoy arts and crafts, but every week the boys at DePaul Academy, they are so just ready to do whatever we have for them, and they're just some of the most respectful, polite boys that I've ever interacted with, and so yeah, they're just a really great group of guys, and I think that it would be a shame that if a project like this wouldn't be accepted.
Okay, thank you. Next, name and address.
Hi, Katie Hammonds, 1260 Longfellow Avenue. And I'm here to speak to you tonight because I think that the rehabilitative function of the criminal justice system is far too often an afterthought. And particularly if that's going to be part of the justice system, which I very deeply think it should be so ever more so with respect to juveniles. And I think that our community would be failing itself and these kids if it weren't to have a place like this to take them in when they have exhibited the desire and the ability to improve their lives. I had the opportunity to tour Rite of Passage, DePaul Academy with South Bend leadership, and it was a brief visit, but every student that we encountered was respectful and polite and earnest, and I think they just have a really great program, and it's something that South Bend and River Park would benefit from. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Next name and address.
Margaret Morgan, 1710 Churchill Drive. I'm not a business owner. I haven't worked in particular with the DePaul Academy before, but I am a neighbor to where they would be living. And I have to say that I would be proud to be their neighbor. I would be proud of South Bend if we allowed this. I think a community is measured by the way it takes care of its children. And so I believe in the work that we do to help and support one another, and it makes sense to me this would happen in the context of community. So I would be proud to live next to them and to have them be contributing members of our community.
Thank you. Next name and address.
Hello, councilors. My name is Leslie Pinson. My address is 830 North St. Louis Boulevard. And I'm here today. On Sundays, I lead volunteer efforts, greeter efforts at South Bend City Church. And that is the church when they're not going to the other gentleman's church 2 times a week. They're going to our church the other 2 times a week. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know the guys and the leadership team over the last few months. We're a startup church, so everybody's new there. But I want to tell you a quick little story. So our greeters, they're our first line of defense in terms of first impression, making sure everyone is welcome and feels like they're a part of the community. A few weeks ago, in between services, we were cleaning up chairs, like straightening them, putting more out for the next service, and the boys had come and attended the first service. They saw that we needed help, and they actively came over to ask if they could help with the chair setup. And then they were so helpful from there on out that they're now joining our greeter team. They're coming to training in a couple weeks. And it is, as a church community, they are loved members of our community, and we could not be more excited to have them on our team. But I just want to point that out. This was not a service opportunity that was set up by myself or their program director. This was a need that the boys saw and something that they wanted to do to give back. And so they took it upon themselves to say, hey, we want to do this. I think that speaks to the character that this program is developing in these young men. And that these young men that are going to our church right now have only been in the program 5 to 6 months. The Woodford Home is for children, for young adults who have graduated from that program and are going to continue to receive the same type of care. I got to visit the DePaul Academy last Monday, spent a couple hours there, blown away by everything that is going on there. When I have children, I mean, I don't yet have children, but it is a place that treats the whole individual. I would pay money to send my kids to a place like DePaul Academy. So with that, I think they're wonderful individuals. They are loved members of our church community. And if I have one complaint today, it's that y'all aren't moving into my neighborhood, because my neighbors and I would welcome you with open arms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next name and address.
Good evening. My name is Willow Weatherall. I live at 803 Cottage Grove Avenue. I am a former board member of the River Park Neighborhood Association and a current administrator on the neighborhood's very active Facebook page, which includes over 4,000 members. And I'm well aware of the challenges, concerns, and hopes of the River Park neighbors. I also recently served on the mayor's working group on homelessness, and have been a volunteer this season at Women's Winter Amnesty. And sadly, with my work on homelessness, I discovered that our community, the homeless population includes young men and women in their late teens. And I know all too well the possible outcomes for vulnerable youth. I'm here to speak in support of the establishment of the Woodford Home in River Park for the graduates of the DePaul Academy. The director of the Academy, Ike Shipman, has done an outstanding job establishing the program for education and healing for the students, and is now looking to develop a supportive home environment for graduates of the program. And I just hope that the neighborhood and the council will embrace this housing initiative and its residents. These young men can contribute to a stronger, safer, more connected neighborhood that looks out for one another and embodies the meaning of community here in South Bend.
Thank you. Next name and address.
Cedric Harmon, 1225 Blaine Avenue, South Bend. I've been at DePaul Rite of Passage for 2 years since they've opened up here in our city. And my current job experiences, I've been doing this for 15 years, working with at-risk youth through working from Madison Center, from South Bend Juvenile Correctional Facility when we were open. In 2012, that facility closed down with an intention of pushing kids out of the court system to a system where rite of passage offers. And I can honestly say, since I've been there, it's been like no other place. I tell people all the time, this is not correctional. This is not a correctional facility. And the environment that it offers, it's not a lockdown correctional facility. As far as issues, rarely do we have issues, and when we do, it's dealt with accordingly. But I've noticed, as far as the experience that I've had since I've been at Rite of Passage here locally in town, we've had students, and I believe even now we have students that when they get out, they don't have a place to go. So they have to get sent right back to their county or to their facilities to be put back in the system again. And one of our first students that we had at the facility kind of was in that predicament. And what blew me away was that Rite of Passage, we offered the opportunity for this student to be put in a place where he's in college now playing basketball. You know, he invited us, all the staff, last year to his graduation party in order to send him off. But he's playing in college basketball, and at the moment, he was one of the most challenging students we had. So I just think that extending this throughout the community would just be very helpful for not just the students that we've had previously, but the students we have presently. And like I said, I've never seen anything like this, and I believe that this would be an excellent idea for the community at this time.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address.
Kenneth Boxell, 805 Lancaster Drive. I am the site compliance officer at Rite of Passage. I've been with them for a little over a year and a half now. What I can tell you about Rite of Passage is that I've been in the field of social services working with teenagers for the past 13 years now. And from day one, working at Rite of Passage and being with the company, I immediately went home and told my wife after training was we're going to eventually relocate to South Bend, Indiana. That's how much I believed in the program and believed in the job. What I've seen from the young men, the growth in the young men, the two young men that are here with us today, I met these two young men day one from in the program, and just the absolute incredible growth and change that I've seen in them has been absolutely astounding to me. Over the course of my 13 years working in the field, I've worked with countless youth that when they left programs or left services, they didn't really have any place to go. Or the places that they were going to be going to, they were going to be worse off than when they were in our care. What the Woodford Home is going to allow the young men that will attend there to go to, that will have a safe environment, an environment where they continue to grow, learn the skills that they need to be successful adults, be successful young men, and turn into community leaders wherever it is that they may end up. I believe that will be an incredible benefit to both the neighborhood and the city of South Bend if you allow this to take place.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Hello.
Hello.
Ken Taylor, 3307 Chapin Street, South Bend. I just want to say first and foremost, I think what the Paul Academy and Rite of Passage is offering here in our area is a phenomenal thing. I've spent about 13 years before pursuing barbering things, working directly with average youth in places like Madison Center, Family and Children's Center, and the Juvenile Justice Center. I've seen a lot of programs, I've seen a lot of stuff that claim to do a lot of things but have not delivered. But I've seen something unique and something special in this program. I've been invited to speak there a few times to the young people. I've also opened up my business at 307 Chapin Inspiration School to one of the interns who came out for about 6 weeks to spend some time, work diligently, and find out more about the opportunity of getting into barbering work. They surround the kids in a different type of way. The atmosphere is much more proactive. Even the young person that came, he graduated from that program, and then they sought me out again, and they sought out funds to send him to school after graduating from their program. So once he gets his credit in alignment, he's going to come to be able to attend school to get a license to become a hair care professional here in the city of South Bend or in Elkhart, wherever he chooses to go. Months ago, Dr. Brunsma, he kind of sought me out, came and got a haircut. And at that time, he actually invited me to connect with him, and we actually met before 1 ounce of renovation had been done on that building we walked through. And I again was impressed because I've seen a lot of facilities who who get a lot of young people, and it becomes like a money political thing. How much can we get, you know? And when he told me the amount of young people there versus the amount of staff, it blew my mind, because this is something different. You know, I think this is a unique opportunity, and it's always risky when you're dealing with at-risk youth. It's really risky when you're dealing with youth that are not at risk. However, as a community, I believe we have an obligation, that is to cover our young people. Myself personally, I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. I was a sophomore in high school. And had I not had a support system around me, I wouldn't have made it. I was cutting hair on the side informally, paying people to live with them. Responsible for eating, clothing, and everything. I didn't even expect to live to see 18. You know, and so if I had the opportunity that comes out of a program like this, I just can only imagine what things could have came out of it. I think we need to raise our expectations of our young people. We can do that by living by example and also leaving our places of comfort to say, how can we better assist and provide support? So I would encourage you, even as a council, to, you know, to get behind this endeavor, because we need it. Our young people are in trouble.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Anthony Birdie, 613 South Water Street. And I teach Bible study at Rite of Passage on Saturday. I can only go off the back of what everybody else was saying, you know, that came up. I mean, you guys have heard everybody that had firsthand with these kids. You know, I dealt with both of these young men right here myself. You know, what Rite of Passage is doing, you know, if you actually knew the program, they're really helping these kids, you know, and they really need our help. You know, it's time for us as a community as a whole to stop dropping the ball. You know, these young kids, they need help. They're asking for help. You know, and I go in there and I talk to them, they want help. A lot of them don't know how to ask for help, but what Rite of Passage is offering them, you know, it's showing them, it's teaching them life skills, it's teaching them how to live of life, not on the streets. You know, it's teaching them how to be men. You know, and we need that. So I'm asking you guys, you know, we're asking you guys to really consider this and take an interest. If anybody here want to change their mind, if you hear that post and want to get up and come up, you know, don't be afraid to do so. We need that. We need this building. Those kids, those young men need this building. You know, think about it. If you was one of them young kids, like Kente, Mr. Lark just said, he was 16 years old. If he had this program, he wouldn't have had to go through what he went through. So please take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Hello, Ryan Hazel, 611 Leland Avenue, and I am one of the pastors of South Bend City Church. So much good stuff's been said here so far. I echo what Leslie said, that if this can't be in the near Northwest where I live, I'm glad that possibly it can be in River Park. I'm a little jealous. Also, what Kente said struck with me, that this is a program that delivers. Been working in neighborhoods with youth for the last 15 years. And the only other program I've seen that delivers anywhere close to this is Transformation Ministries and the ISI program, which I have fantastic, great respect for. So I didn't know what to expect when I first came across DePaul Academy. But over time, I've grown to love the kids. We went there for a Christmas party, and didn't know what to do having a Christmas party with teenage boys. It's been a while. I have daughters, you know, so I didn't know what to expect at all. And Leslie was like, hey, you should take my karaoke machine. I was like, teenage boys are not going to do karaoke. They're, like, too cool for that, right? But we took the karaoke machine, and right away, from the very beginning, they were busting out classic Michael Jackson jams, and it was fantastic, amazing. But one of the things I noticed was, after a bit of time, there was one of the students who was different than the rest in a lot of different ways, just culturally different. And he wanted to get up and he wanted to sing like 1970s country songs that I'd never heard of because they were too old for me, right? I didn't know where this was coming from at all. And the schools, the well-respected schools I grew up in, a boy that was as different as this boy was would have been bullied and ostracized and everything else. But this kid was getting up to sing these songs, and what I saw was the other students surrounding him and standing up and trying to sing the songs along with them with their arms around them. And that type of character in these students is something you don't see in teenagers. I hope that my own daughters can grow up to have character like that that's there. And that also says something about the program that's there, that those students that are there, they're only there 9 to 12 months, and the program is so deeply embedded in the culture of character that they have that the boys are catching that contagious culture even in the short period of time they're able to be there. One last point I want to make is that I am a foster and adoptive parent. And in our state, we're having a massive shortage of foster parents due to the opioid crisis. In the last year, 1 out of every 6 babies that were born in the state were born with drugs in their system. My daughter was one of those babies that was born with drugs in her system. That's a really complicated problem that there's not a lot we can do about it. But this is one of the things we can do about the opioid crisis and about the shortage of foster care. This is a practical action that we can take, and I encourage you and hope that you can take that today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
My name is Jamie Hosey, 1702 Medora Street. My wife and I, she couldn't be here tonight because she has chronic illness that she deals with, but we were actually part of that Christmas party through South Bend City Church, and God really put a heaviness on our hearts for these boys, specifically teenage boys that are neglected or, cast aside by the just society, or not wanted in the foster care system. A lot of people that foster kids, they want younger kids, not teenagers. But this Rite of Passage group is doing such a wonderful and amazing job that we really felt a call to get involved and volunteer as much as we can. And much like the ladies from Notre Dame, my wife and I have volunteered to also do like an arts kind of thing on Saturdays as well with a group of these boys. And we've only done a couple of Saturdays so far, but we've had 11 or 12 guys consistently want to be a part of that program. It's been a blessing to us. Ike has always been one to be like, well, if you guys want to come back, and we're like, we want to come back as often as we can for as long as we can. And we're actually in the process of going through background checks and stuff to be like long-term volunteers with this program. We believe in it 100% in what they're doing. These boys are amazing, well-disciplined, very, polite. Their whole program is very structured, and if it's anything like what they have going on in their current DePaul Academy, that this Woodford home would be an asset to the community.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Mackenzie Gahn, 1811 Lincoln Way East, Mishawaka, Indiana. Born and raised South Bend, proud LaSalle Lion graduate, 94. And thank you, okay. Lived my whole life in South Bend. Will be moving back to South Bend in 3 years, so I'm really excited. And actually, River Park is the area that I'm looking to move back to. I'm really excited about you taking into consideration all of these individual opinions and positive things that people are looking forward to this being part of the community. I volunteer as well to one of the churches, South Bend City Church, on a different team. And they're not a part of that specific team, but I do all of the beverages, the hospitality, so when they come and get their coffee, I make sure that everything is ready for them, and their manners are amazing. I have a 14-year-old son, and I keep saying, well, okay, he needs to learn from these young men. So also as a business entrepreneur, it would be an honor to have these young men work with me. It would be an honor for me to be able to go to this new facility in River Park and donate my services as a home maintenance person that does organization and janitorial work, which is not the most glamorous work, but it needs to be done. I also feel like this needs to happen in River Park for this to be a continued positive effect in the community. And I really appreciate you listening to all of these positive feedbacks and mine also. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Megan Wright, 55726, Cousin Brian, Osceola. While I am living in Osceola, I have lived in South Bend most of my life, and I do attend South Bend City Church. And also, I did work at South Bend Juvenile Correctional Facility for 4 years, and I have worked at other places with youth at Oak Lawn and Madison Center as well. But
particularly with my experience at South Bend Juvenile Correctional Facility, I can express how sad it was when somebody was being transitioned out of the program after doing all the hard work that it took to get that far and not being able to find a placement or having to look at a homeless shelter as their place to go. So I do want to echo the sentiments that everybody is stating here, and I really hope that you support this idea, because I think that this Woodford home would be a great place for these boys.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Good evening, Adela Camacho, 405 North Mechanic Street, Berrien Springs, Michigan, zip code 491. I'd like to first start off with a scripture that says, Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I believe that is what we are called for. I'd like to ask you this morning that if you saw a child drowning in a pool of water, would you allow him to drown, or would you save him? Rite of passage is that anchor, is that life ring that we can throw to them. Not only that, but this group home is as well. These student athletes have gone through a lot, and I can pretty much understand what they go through, because I myself have nieces and nephews that come from adoption centers. And as a result, my brother and his wife ended up adopting close to 6 to 7 children that came from homes that were broken. So I understand what they go through. These student athletes before you have worked so hard to grow, to learn the basics of what it takes to drive a life that can be with success. And today, it could be possibly denied that environment, which will help them achieve their goals. How? By educating them. I believe in education is the foundation of everything. First of all, education in the home is the most important. Because when you educate a child in a home, you teach them respect. You teach them the work ethic. You teach them also that there is a giver that is much higher than them and that they can depend on when they are at their lowest. By showing them these parts of life, our society will depend on them. Not only that, they will become an individual that may one day be someone great such as yourselves. And I feel that by shutting the door on this opportunity is like shutting the door on them, which is what they're used to. Why not give them something that they're not used to, an opportunity? These children have come from broken homes. My nieces and nephews came from broken homes. And I've seen what it's caused to them. And as a result, I'm glad that I'm there to help them out. Just as I'm glad I'm here to help these young gentlemen out. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Good evening. My name is Amy Sturma. My address is actually in Elkhart, but I work at 1000 South Michigan Street. I was actually a resident of River Park for several years at 1214 South 27th Street. I'm currently a therapist at DePaul Academy, Rite of Passage, and I have the great opportunity to help these young men to become more. Like our motto is improving the lives of youth, and that's what we do. The sad part is that a lot of times these kids come to us. You ask what our demographics are or what their past issues are. Their abandonment, their trauma. They have a lot of that, and we work 8, 9, 12 months to try and heal those wounds. And a lot of times we send them back to the same broken homes where they are either reoffended on, or they have the same issues where their parents abandon them still, or choose drugs, or choose all these other things and not choose their kids. And that's the sad and hard part of my job, is you heal this person or help to heal this person, and then you send them right back. And those same wounds are opened again, and then they contact you asking for support. This opportunity that we're asking for here is humongously needed. And we have over 300 hours of therapeutic intervention before they would even be able to have this opportunity to go to the Woodford home. So the risk and everything else that they have is so much lower. I've had the one kid that he was talking about that doesn't fit in, that's one of my students. And we call our students student athletes. So they're known as student athlete and their last name. We teach them respect, like they said. We teach them the 15 character traits. We try to build a foundation that they haven't had, that they didn't know, like how to sweep a floor, how to cook dinner, how to wash their clothes. They learn all those things through us. And at Woodford Home, they've even learned so much more. So I've had kids that was sent to Maryland because he went home because his parents didn't want him. And so when you try to have family therapy with parents that don't want you, and you're trying to sell hope to a kid that doesn't know what hope was. He had the gang life before. And through us, he learned what other caring adults are like and supposed to be like. And that's what we want to continue to have, is that we can make a brighter future. Because the kids are our future. And if we don't sell hope, and if we don't continue to instill hope into them, we will be neglecting them. We will not be doing them justice. So I hope that you will take in consideration everything that we try to do, and the community service. So like Riley, how you guys acknowledge Riley here was amazing earlier. And all of our students, half of them never even went to school before, or like half, like go once a day or went to like a month or something. And now they're getting on the honor roll. They're learning how to go to school. Our teachers are spending time with them. They're getting achievements that they've never had in their life. We're building success. And that's what we want to continue on. Again, 300 therapeutic hours that they will have before they get to the Woodford Home. Community service, before they can go up to each status, they have to do so many hours of community service. 50 hours of community service our RAMs have to do. So to get there, that's going to be continued in the Woodford Home, which, again, I hope that you will open your hearts and open the River Park community for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Thank you, Rochelle Day, 1765 Judy Lake Drive, North South Bend. I've had the opportunity to serve and work with these young men, whether it be going to church with them or going to the Paul Academy and doing service projects alongside with them. And if you need an understanding of what they're like, just turn to your own son, nephew, grandson, if you have one. They're a typical teenager. But they do, like many of the people here have said and testified to, have respect and an immense sense of character bestowed on them when they are in DePaul Academy. Abraham Lincoln said that I am a success today because of a friend who believed in me, and I didn't have the heart to let him down. I think these young men need friends here and friends in the community, and I have no doubt that they won't let you down. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, sir.
Good afternoon, Council. Isaac Young, 138 East Broadway. Work with the group Rounders Innovation for the City of South Bend. I travel around the country doing different speaking engagement and trying to find best practices. And one of the things that kept coming up was rites of passage. And I asked Judge Fox about it. He was telling me they was coming. I was shocked. I'm like, how are we getting them here? Right? Because the metrics and the way in which they perform outperforms every single home or organization that's like this. And I'm ecstatic that they are here. Anything that I can do to help them, to assist, I'm truly ecstatic. Because one of the things we got to understand is they're providing a wraparound service for these young men. So that way when they get out, they got an opportunity to be successful. And this is what the group violence intervention is all about. We went from in juveniles detention to JJC to corrections. So we went from rehabilitation to incarceration. They're offering an opportunity for rehabilitation. And this is something, and the lady said it, and she's dead on point. Where we put our money at shows where our priorities are. And we need to invest in our children in this community. We got, just this weekend alone, I was out all night long. Dealing with these juveniles and these guns. This is an opportunity that they don't have to go through that. This is an opportunity to feed the system to be able to help them become better people, which will make our community safer at the same time. And guess what? They're going to date somebody's young lady, right? So if they are, we want them to come out as gentlemen, right? Having chivalry and all this stuff. They teaching all of this stuff. Opening up car doors, how to be respectful. These are the things our young people need, and I salute you. And anything I can do to help, I'm down with it. So let's pass it.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address.
My name is Fred T., 704 Rolling Court, South Bend. I live right around the corner from ROI or JJC, the building, and I had actually applied for a job there last year. and went through a couple interviews, but it ended up conflicting with my internship with Bowman Creek, who I work for now. But I was really impressed with the lady that was interviewing me. You know, I could tell that they were passionate about their kids there. And I was one of these young men growing up. My mother died when I was 7. She was 24, died of cancer, and I had to live with a drug-addicted stepfather. So at the age of 10 or 11, I was stealing food just to eat and getting locked up. You know, our country has been about retributive justice for so long. You know, and if you look at the state of the nation now, you know, it's about retribution, and we need a healing. We need restoration. You know, and if I would have had an organization like this to be able to invest in me, I might not have had to go through so many obstacles just to get to this point today to where I could be a blessing to somebody else. So I came here, I wasn't anticipating speaking on this, but I believe, and although no system is 100% fail-proof, you know, but if you make a difference in one of these young men's life, you've made a difference. You can potentially change the world. What I know is that one way or another, they're going to influence us. They're going to be our neighbors. They're going to be running with our kids. And if we don't influence them in a positive way, then 9 times out of 10, they're going to influence us negatively. You know, and if you look at, you know, these youngsters out here now today and what's going on in the city, we need to do all we can to try to stem this tide and change course. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address.
Mary Brunsma, 3116 East Lane, South Bend, 46614. Hi, I've been a resident of South Bend for almost 20 years now, and I've worked in South Bend for almost that same amount of time. I've had the opportunity to meet quite a few of the young men from DePaul Academy at our church, which is the church that my husband and I go to, which is Christ Chapel. One of the churches that the boys attend twice a month usually. And I have, across the board, always, I just want to have my voice to the other witnesses that have been here, to their character. They have always treated me and the other members of our church with respect and politeness. They are always very attentively attended by the staff that comes with them. I've never seen that not happen. I really believe in the mission of ROP. Being married to Bill, I know what ROP is all about very intimately, and I know the values that they stand for. I know the values that DePaul stands for: integrity, respect, honesty, treating each other with the proper respect, and keeping the young men in a safe and secure facility where they can advance themselves, you know, successfully in the ways that we all want to do. And I just want to say that I believe that you can trust what ROP is doing. I hope that all of you and South Bend in general will embrace this opportunity to give these young men a chance that they would not otherwise have because of the past backgrounds that they have come from through no fault of their own. But they need this opportunity, and I hope and pray that you will consider that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Common Council, my name is Andrew Nemeth. I have a variety of different addresses, but we'll go with 1201 South Sheridan in South Bend, Indiana. I have lived here in South Bend for over 40 years. It's kind of scary to say that, and I've operated a commercial real estate business for 20 years. I could never articulate on my best day the stories that have been shared with you this evening by the folks here in the background. I just recently got over surgery, so it was iffy whether or not I was going to be able to make it here tonight. But it's so important to me, their mission is so important to me that I made it here tonight. It's already after 9 o'clock, so I'll try to keep this very brief. But being the business guy here, I wanted to add a couple little notes. If this passes tonight, and Woodford Home and DePaul Academy are both going to be operational, you're talking about over 70 full-time employees here in the city of South Bend based on this operation of ROP. ROP has been, received accolades, and they're treated as the gold-bearing standard in this child care throughout the United States of America. I'm very lucky to have them here. I hope that you take this very seriously, and I look forward to seeing this go forward, and I'd like to potentially even get set up with maybe some vocational welding for an operation I'm involved with here in South Bend. Thank you very much for your time. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. Next name and address.
Good evening, Lisa Shaw, 704 South 24th Street. I am a current resident of River Park, and I'm a business owner in South Bend. I am a new resident. I purchased my home on 24th Street last July, and while I'm a new resident, I've been connected to River Park since I was a child, actually longer than that. My father grew up in River Park, and he attended Nooner School. And both of my grandmothers lived in River Park. The home I purchased is actually one of my grandmother's home. So even as a new resident, my husband and I began to attend the neighborhood association meetings. And so we've kind of started getting connected, and I've become reacquainted with the neighborhood there. I've been working with the board of directors of our association to reestablish communication in our community, and that will be through our newsletter and also through social media right now. It's young, but we're hoping through communicating and bringing our neighborhood together that we will all have an idea of what is going on in our community. I'm hoping to be able to work with Dr. Brunsma and his staff to be able to continue to inform our area residents of what is going on in this community, including Woodford Home. Since we just moved there in July, I've been walking around the neighborhood quite a bit, and I walk past this building often as I go down to the Nooner track, do a few laps, and then go on home, and I look at the building, and it just seems like it's such a great opportunity. I mean, we have an empty building in our community that needs a use, and I see it having an extremely bright future that, as a resident in this community, I'm excited about. These young men are exceptional young men. They, as Dr. Brunsma said, they want to be here. They want to be part of our community. And River Park is such a community rich in amenities and resources. We have so many exciting things to offer to all of our residents and anybody else that's coming in. And just from the aspect of having these young men live in and as part of our community. River Park, our residents, from what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, we have a great need for a lot of youth that can lead by example, to be part of our community and help us and live and work side by side with us. So I'm excited to be able to embrace this program. I do hope it is approved. I think that's all I have to add.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, one more.
Hi, Lenny Shaw, 704 South 24th. And prior to coming here, I was in support, and I still am. It's great to hear so much support for young men that want to be helped. So this is a great opportunity for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, sir.
I'm Shai Alexander. I reside at 1000 South Michigan Street, and I'm currently a student athlete attending the Paul Academy. I'd just like to shed some light on you for like what really goes on at the Paul Academy and what the transition is going to be looking like from a student athlete point of view. So when you enter the Paul Academy, you start off on an OT status, and you have to progress throughout the program to get to the final status, which is a RAM status, when you receive this jacket. And it really just shows all the hard work and dedication that you put into the program, and it just allows everyone to see what it can be like to be a leader. At DePaul, they give you positive skill development groups and treatment groups to help you learn skills that you need for real life, and they try to help you prepare for real life. So some of those treatment groups are anger replacement therapy, substance abuse groups, biological behavioral therapy groups. I've attended all of these groups, by the way, and they really do help. It helps you, it really helps you build skills and gives you coping skills and social skills to use when you're outside of the Paul Academy. The whole program in and of itself is just good for the youth. I apologize.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. You're doing great. Keep going.
But
Even Oliver needs notes.
No, I think the Wilford Home would really be a good thing for the community because it gives youth who don't really have like a positive home to go back to, a place and a chance, to stay out of trouble because you don't have anywhere positive to go. You go right back into trouble, and nobody wants to see that for the youth and for the next generation to come. It also, I also think the Wilford Home would be good because all the kids that go there are kids that want to be there. They're not court-ordered to go there. They're not forced to go there. They're kids that want to be there and want to participate with it, and that want to make an impact on the community of South Bend and the community that it's in. So I think that would be really good for the community for that reason as well. And like you've heard from a lot of the other people, we participate in a lot of community service projects. We try to get out as much as we can to help out the homeless. We go to the homeless shelter and help them out every now and then. We go, like we said, we go to church and we help out the church with what we can. We do as much around the community as we can. And so I think that putting more student athletes into the community would actually help them, be able to help the community as much more as they could. Just live around there and stay around there and do what they can. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, name and address, sir.
Joe Edwards, 1000 South Michigan Street, South Bend, Indiana. And I'm a student athlete at the Paul Academy right now. And my goals, like, ROP taught me, like, a lot of stuff. Like, the stages have changed. Our pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse. And pre-contemplation is when, like, you're thinking that you do not have a problem. And probably everybody who come into the Paul Academy, ROP, think they don't have a problem because that's just, they're used to doing it on the outside. And, like, going through the Paul Academy just helped me realize, like, that I need to work on my future and my goals. And my goals are, like, when I validate the Paul Academy, I'll probably have 11 credits, and I'll be a sophomore. So I need to just catch up on all my things, and the Paul Academy really helped me, because outside, I never really went to school. And then the Paul Academy makes you go to school. And I think, like, a structured environment is what kids like us need. And I'm sorry.
You're all right.
Like,
you're doing fine.
The Paul Academy is to achieve personal goals, better your self-esteem, your future, and your outlook on life. It teaches you ways to succeed, and it also teaches you ways to cope with problems that you will face outside. And being in the community is like where the Wilford Home will be. Will put you in situations where you need to use problem solving. And I just think it would be great for kids, because if I didn't have a place to go, it would definitely be my choice.
Thank you, sir. Last one.
My name is Ike Shipman. I live at 17265 Judea Lake Drive North in South Bend, Indiana. I am the program director of the Paul Academy, and I will be the program director of Wilford Home Civic Make. All too often, I think we talk about young men rather than letting them stand up and speak for themselves, or listening to what it is that they have to say. So yesterday, I asked 2 students if they'd be willing to come and speak tonight. So what they said today was what they came up with this evening, after saying yes yesterday. I wanted you to hear directly from them so that you could see who they are, and you could understand the quality of the young men that we are working with, and the quality of the people that have put in time and energy into our students. The home that you see in front of you that's been up here for us to look at has been unused for years. It held 40 patients. 40. We will be using it for 10 to 12 young men. Students, young men from the area that will be returning back to the area. To me, it seems like a perfect use for this space and for this building. And it is about the quality, not the quantity. We will affect big change only by working with individual students on an individual basis one at a time, through good, quality work and transitioning. And it takes courage. It takes courage not only for our students to make those changes and to step out into a community that may or may not greet them well, but it takes courage for our staff to work with these guys. I also think about the neighborhood itself, and I think about the individuals living in the neighborhood, thinking about the unknown of a new neighbor moving next door to you. I understand that that would be a worry, and that that would be a concern. I moved to South Bend 2 years ago to help start DePaul Academy. This need arose only as a result of the needs of the children that we were serving. They had nowhere to go. A third of the students had no safe home to transition to. But we're ready to make the transition, and we're capable of making the transition. So I came to help facilitate the needs of this community, and I love being a member of this community. South Bend is something that I have been drawn to. I love the people here. The outpouring and the help and the support that's come has been amazing. We want to continue that support through the Woodford Home, and we want to continue the quality that we've started, and we want to help the neighbors in our area where we hope to step into. We want to help them understand who we are, and we want to be a part of that community. We had some of our students that stepped over to this building to see it for the first time so that they could begin understanding what options they might have in front of them. And during the day that we were there, the snow was falling, and there was a neighbor, the neighbor immediately to the south, whose car was stuck in the snow. The students helped her dig the car out, helped push the car out, and they did that because there was a need. I have no doubt that we will continue to provide that kind of service. We are already engaged in the community in several different ways, and we have plans to do much, much more through education, through vocational training, and through the community service projects. We want nothing more than the opportunity to prove to the neighbors what an asset we can be. We thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate any concerns that people have so that we can continue to address those through the community advisory board that we will have on site at the future Woodford Home to address ongoing needs and concerns, because things will happen and things will come up, but we will have an open dialogue with the neighborhood and with the South Bend community to address those needs and to solve them as we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here. 837 South 24th Street. I've heard South 27th, it's going to be on. I own a home on 27th. I own a home on 26th. I came here, I heard it. It takes courage to stand up here. I got to support those two young...
Mr. Goodjoe, you're addressing us, please.
And just heartfelt felt what they had to share today. I was so moved that I did come up. No one else spoke of actually living right next door. I will support them as a landlord. I have jobs that they could do, and I would encourage us to look out to how we can positively impact these student athletes. I think that's so significant, student athletes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, anyone wishing to speak against, please come to the podium. You have 5 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak against? Seeing none, we'll turn it back to council. Council, at this point, are there any questions for the petitioner, or any comments? Ms. White?
Not at this time, but prior to, I would like to take a short recess. It would be good, 2 or 3 minutes after council has had comments.
Just as things have gone for a few, I think people should get back.
Do you want to do it now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Point of order, let's do 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Thank you. We'll do a 5-minute break. I'll entertain a motion for that.
All in favor, say aye.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Second, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Thank you. 5-minute break. Thank you. I know. No, there is. No, last week, no. I can't. No, there's.
Okay. Unfortunately, my schedule is completely jammed, especially in the afternoon period. Let's touch base tomorrow morning. I would love to see Greg come up, but it's not to come up. We can discuss the game.
Does anyone?
Yeah, does anyone oppose? I don't know what to talk about. Okay. I didn't. What's that? Great. For a big zone?
I know.
I was wondering, I didn't receive any letters from
This is not even my seat.
It's been warm from the beginning.
All right, let's make a show. I got chips to Notre Dame girls. What's going with Notre Dame girls? I don't know. Must have needed me to coach them tonight, but I ought to be a council meeting. You're okay with that? I tell you. I mean, the head went down, like, what am I going to do? I said, hey, hang in there. See, the championship game is going to be at Ohio State. Final Four is at Columbus for the ladies basketball. Yeah, that's why I was hoping. I said, we're going to be right there on the campus. Final Four. Notre Dame could be in July. Who's that closer to what? John. Just like he's here, John. You and I share. Karen, you ready? I'll put it right there, right. Actually here. I'll push it over there. You ready?
Okay. Council's now back in session. We are now in the council portion only. I will turn it back to council for comments or questions. We'll start with the second district. If there's anything you want to say or questions you have for the petitioner.
Question. Will this bring jobs to this community?
Yes, ma'am. It already has
You
with
know
the
how
Paul
many?
Academy. There'll be over 20 jobs
Fantastic.
for just Woodford Home itself. 70 altogether.
You said just Woodford Home.
Just Woodford Home is 20. The others are...
I have a comment. I just want to say I remember when Ike Shipman first came a couple years ago. I'm not sure that we've spoken since then. But one of the things I remember is he was talking about the rate of pay that you paid your employees. If I remember, I got a really great impression in terms of not only are you caring for the young people, but you're also caring for your staff. So not only will there be jobs, but there will be good jobs that respect the dignity of your workers. So I want to thank and appreciate you for that. Also, I want to say that as a teacher who taught for 12 years for students with emotional disabilities in a self-contained setting, I worked a lot, and I certainly have a heart for a population of students who have this kind of great need. And I've seen the results of not having those continuing services. Children who are doing so well and they're being so successful, and then they age out. And then all of a sudden they're just like, well, bye. And literally I've had the phone calls from the young man at 4 in the morning who's sleeping on the playground when it's raining and just a little bit of frost in the air because he's aged out of the program. And so, I've seen that man also, that young man, over the years. He was sent to a group home that was kind of like this, but it was in Plymouth. So even though it had these wonderful supports and services, all of his family was here in South Bend. So the quandary for him was, I can't see my people, I can't see my family, and there was that disconnect there, and that was something that was a problem. He did end up reoffending and ended up in prison. And I think that it's because of the lack of the services of this type, whereas a young man who had almost a 4.0 in high school, having, a lot of issues, but have been successful, and then because the services stopped, because of something as arbitrary as a birthday, he ended up falling back and going into another way. So I certainly have personal experience with how important this is and how needed it is. I wish we could have more. So I want to appreciate and thank you all for coming and bringing what you have to the community. You will certainly have my support tonight for this vote. And also, please give me a call if there's anything more I can do to support your facility and your students. Thank you.
Ms. McBride, you being the district council person, I can give you the option to speak now, or you can speak at the very end.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our democracy is a representative government. And I believe 30 days ago, I was elected to represent the people. There's been a lot of people today that came to speak that is in favor of the Woodford home. And I've also been inundated with a lot of meetings over the past few weeks, and with phone calls and emails of people in opposition as well. At the same time, I believe that, in spite of my own personal feelings, I believe that this program offers services that are desperately needed in our community. And, but I cannot overlook all of the amount of people who also called and met with me this week, saying that they were not in favor as well. I believe the measure will pass tonight, but I think I will be the no vote, so the voices of the people who oppose the bill can be heard.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Broden, any comments, questions?
Sure, happy to. I really think between my visits to your facility, the information that you provided tonight in committee, and previous to that in the Area Plan Commission when this issue came before that body, and in communication with neighbors, and certainly by virtue of tonight's input from the public, I think this, as a petitioner, you have strongly evidenced that you have a terrific program model, terrific programming, you have a strong philosophy, you have a great discipline policy. I've read about that. And what the two young gentlemen, I don't see them, wherever they went, their personal testimony to that. But you also have in place strong regulatory oversight from the state, and your supervision ratio is indeed outstanding. What you have done from the time that this was first presented, I believe, and then I first heard about this, to tonight, in terms of your commitment to involve the community in your ongoing administration, specifically in the advisory board. I think that's an outstanding move. I think your commitment to keep the lines of communication open with the neighborhood, your willingness to even look at if there is a way to overcome some of the HIPAA requirements on the privacy. I think there might be some benefit to incorporating some individuals from the community on your disciplinary, but certainly to at least have a robust system in place where if there are complaints, if there are issues, I think that's important going forward in that ongoing communication. And I would say to that end, there have been a lot of individuals who have spoken tonight, and this was particularly moving for me. The number of individuals who have already connected up with ROP and students in our community currently. I see this as an extension of a service that is already being provided, it's already meeting high standards, and it's already having success. We need to open up this next pathway for these students. And I think this location in particular, the building itself lends itself to reuse and adaptation to your use. And it's very generous in its space. It's very appropriately located in terms of proximity to schools, to employment opportunities, recreational opportunities. I mean, I could keep going. Just to get to summarize, I mean, I really think when we talk about the need for rehabbing and assisting youths who have fallen into trouble, it would be very difficult for me to imagine something else that could be more wraparound than this, frankly. So, I really have sure there'll be challenges. I love whoever said the point, maybe you have, kids, teenagers living in a home with two parents, roof over their head, no consideration, no worries, no issues. I mean, you're going to have problems, right? So I love whoever made that point, right? I think you've put in place, Dr. Brisman, I also want to say you have an amazing track record yourself in this community. And I don't know, to my left or to my right, who knows that record, but I know the Brodens know your record. And I would like to say you do and have done outstanding work for the youth in our community. So I am, for one, happy when I came out to the facility and connected a name with a face and knew how deep you were going to be involved in this and how long you were going to be staying there. Thumbs up from me in that regard. I think, additionally, the fact that DePaul Academy has had such a terrific success rate, right, thus far. And if this is a landing spot for students who have already gone through that very strong program, again, we know we have the right individuals who care about launching this, who care about being there throughout the duration, and who will, in my opinion, all of these things that I've mentioned, location, discipline, programming, philosophy, supervision, and inclusion in the community, bring it on to my neighborhood, honestly. But it's where you've petitioned, and I am delighted to support you and tonight and anything I can do going forward.
Thank you. Dr. Berner.
Well, being the cold-hearted pragmatist that I am, I first looked at the building, and I said, yeah, that makes perfect sense to find a use such as this, to reuse it, because it had been vacant for some time. I knew that. That wasn't going to be enough, as I was receiving the emails, and I'm sure we all received, and the phone calls that were received. You brought forth and presented a program and in some ways, promise. I think you've created some great expectations. And if this is granted this evening, and I'm prepared to support you in that, my fondest wish is that you are able to live up to those expectations so that these young men get that extended second chance or that second chance. And I hope you will take in good faith the requests from the council that there be with regards to disciplinary, your board. Because I think sometimes folks knowing that they have a voice or someone they can talk to, someone from the neighborhood, and say, I'm not sure this is going real well. At that point, I think they can be sure it'll get to you. And you will ultimately, find yourself responsible for that. So I think that's a good idea. It sounds like you're willing to accept it and include it. And I think all those things included, we found a good use for a building that was going to sit vacant. We found a good person or a good program to fill it as well as use. And I wish you well, and my best wish is that the expectations you presented will be fulfilled.
Thank you. Vice President Davis.
Yes, Mr. President. Scott, one of the speakers tonight talked about the 80s music and Michael Jackson they referenced. Michael sang a song, Change the World, Make This a Better Place. I won't sing it. I just talked about it. Thank you. It's one of my favorite ones of his. And you have really helped to change South Bend. I believe you will help make that a better place. And being your social work background, which we talked about, your director of the program is also a social worker. The three of us met that afternoon. It was a meeting of social workers. And we understand this kind of a population. I think sometimes we understand it so well. I think the challenge was getting it across to some of the neighbors. And so, but I think this is going to really help make it a better place there. the young people spoke. And as they were speaking, I was thinking about Michael Jackson's song, Man in the Mirror. And when those young men look at themselves in the mirror and they see that jacket on that they worked so hard for, it says something about them. Your willingness to bring them tonight really, to me, I think those who called in and wrote us emails, I understood their opposition. I really did. I mean, we've gone through this in my side of town with the issue of the Fusion building and the neighbors being concerned. But to literally look at those young men tonight and with those jackets on, that letter and everything else, it was powerful. And to hear how I hope that they remember this night. As we celebrated Raleigh High School to the basketball, I want to also celebrate those young men tonight too, and give them a big hand. So that's a lot of work. It's not easy coming before a council, and so trust me. By the way, I got my notes too. You said so. Hey, I understand. I read my notes too, and so therefore, my vote tonight in support is just as easy as ABC. And so, you got me tonight. Thank you. All right. I gotta go to Ages now. That was the 70s, but... Yeah.
Don't make me call this to order. My recollection goes back to Sam Cooke. Change is going to come. I can't say anything more articulate or comprehensive than my colleague Joe Broden has uttered earlier, and I support everything that she said. The only thing I could add maybe is that I've known River Park for a long time. I've known people who taught at Nooner their entire careers. I know people who live there. It's a unique community that can almost stand alone. It's got its own business district, its own schools. You don't see that much anymore. Business strips that continue to thrive through the years. It certainly has its challenges. River Park does. It's essentially like South Bend, a microcosm, a blue-collar community with very moderately priced homes that are aging, that take a lot of upkeep, and it's a challenge to keep all that together. I think that this actually strengthens River Park and the community, and there are a lot of reasons to support this, as have been expressed by others. I'd like to add that I think it's good for River Park and it's good for South Bend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just say thank you to everybody who came out here to speak today, and thank you in advance for being a good neighbor. I'll be supporting.
Thank you.
Ms. White.
Yes, I would first like to thank Councilwoman McBride for her comments, and clearly, that being the 3rd District representative, she's heard and received feedback for those in support and then those who have been in opposition. The unknown is a real concern that cannot and should not be taken lightly, especially by those neighbors who live very closely to the proposed site. I would encourage you, as you begin to look at the Community Advisory Board, that advisory board should be established very quickly. It should include Councilwoman McBride, representatives from the business community, but most importantly, representatives from those who live in the community. I would like to, and this is nothing unusual, when we've had other resolutions or ordinance, we've always asked to have feedback, and that we would like to, I'm just saying this for my purposes, in order for my support, that that Community Advisory Board be established as quickly as possible, that within the first 3 months that we should get a report, the next 6 months and the next 9 months. Just because individuals were not here and did not speak in opposition does not mean that there is no opposition out there. I don't know why they weren't here, I would encourage those who really have some concerns about this project that they would look at the video that would give them some feedback, and hopefully will help to clarify some concerns that they might have. Anytime something's new and it moves into one's community, it does raise concerns. And again, being a good neighbor, I think that I would encourage you not to take those lightly, that you would begin to look at that advisory board, and that advisory board will have the full rights of any member being on the advisory board. Also, I think it's important that we continue the conversations. You had made mention today when I had asked, knowing that there is some concerns within the business community, if you felt that it would be of any value to at least to reach out one more time, and your response was at this point you didn't think that that would be beneficial, because you've done a lot of work, and I applaud you on that in terms of meeting with not only with the neighborhood association, but also with the business community. I was at both of those meetings, and some movement has taken place. I was hopeful that we could get to a point that we will have a better level of consensus. But again, these are my concerns that I have. I want to have the comfort level that community advisory board will be established as quickly as possible, and of course after you get into the facility, that is reflective of those who will be greatly impacted.
Thank you, Ms. White. My final comments are, tonight is about risk management. So we are making a decision on the neighborhood and on your entity and on these kids' lives on risk management, and that has to go with respect to those that are in opposition. And I respect Ms. McBride's comments, Ms. White's comments, and all council members' comments on this. What we're doing right now is looking at risk management. And everybody who spoke, raise your hand. We all have your address. So what we're going to be doing is asking for you guys, just like the old saying, takes a village to raise a kid. You guys are the village. You guys are here to help him and these kids with that, mitigate that risk management. That is a concern within the neighborhood, within the businesses. And we'll look forward to that. I'll personally come, I know where some of you live, knock on your door and say, hey, we need help if there's because we're going to be the first ones getting the phone call when something doesn't go right. Now, the two student athletes, please stand up. We're betting on these guys. And what I haven't seen in South Bend in a long, long time, sorry Isaac, but you're probably the only other one that I've met with on this, is betting on these kids. And we don't have enough of that here. It is too much from, either school to possibly incarceration and not much around. I've been on those paths where there isn't anybody in my life, direct me when I was your age. So I know what that is, and I know what that means. And there is a concern. So we're asking all of you to mitigate that risk, and that's what this is about. You guys can sit down now. Thank you. But my vote is in support, and my vote is betting on you guys in your future. So, as I said earlier, I know there's some guys up front, 4 of them, who've been waiting a long, long time to hear some other news. I think there's some synergy in this room, so I hope there's a connection there that means something. It's common sense. It's a vacant building. It's jobs. It's that second chance that we talk about, and we talk about in our business, and we give to individuals. So, to me, that's the key. So, with that, any recommendation from council?
Motion for adoption. Adoption, thank you.
Second.
Ms. Fowler, if you're ready.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Nay.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you.
President Scott,
Ms.
I wanted
White.
to make sure that my comments in regards to the advisory board report back to the council and the makeup of that is part of the record, and that is my expectation. Those are my expectations. And you can rest assured, I will be involved.
And we will, duly noted for the record, and we will follow up with that, and we will actually, with the clerk's assistance, get a date on record for 3 months from now on the council. Okay. Thank you.
You're done?
Can I entertain a motion for, to continue 1812 to 49?
So moved. Mr. Brennan, he doesn't know you finished.
Oh, Mr. Brennan, we are finished. You're good. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will get back to you. We're hoping to open somewhere like June 1st, and advisory board will be
In place?
the first thing we do is try to get it together. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your support and your time. I really appreciate it, and we'll be involving all of you also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. If you guys would please, we still have a meeting. If you would, please go outside. Thank you.
Something may be lurking outside the door. Sorry, make it up, Michael.
Okay, I think we're back to entertaining a motion to continue 1812 to 49.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Ms. Fowler, would you please give first reading to bill number 1918?
1918, first reading on an ordinance to vacate the following described properties. First north-south alley east of Arthur Street, running from Camp Hall Street to the south to the first east-west alley on the north, covering a distance of approximately 156 feet, all in South Bend, Indiana.
I move that this bill be set for second reading and public hearing on April 9th and sent to the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 2018.
2018, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, adding Section 20-4 of Chapter 20, Article 1 of the South Bend Municipal Code to establish parking restrictions on South Bend city streets.
That's true.
I move that this be set for second reading and public hearing on April 9th and sent to the Health and Public Safety Committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Why is
What
public
question?
safety?
Because that's what he said earlier.
Public works, public
Do you know what streets is there when we sitting? Can we get, well, maybe.
Hang on a minute. It is set under that because it has to do with rules that are dictated by the police department. Parking and road rules. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. 2118, please.
2118, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 6 of the South Bend Municipal Code to include a new Article 13, establishing responsible bidding practices and submission requirements on public works projects.
I move this be set for second reading and public hearing on April 9th and sent to the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Is there any unfinished business?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Varner had talked about, and I mentioned in our last meeting, but he wasn't here, about the issue of this monies for additional monies we're going to get in for roads. And my question in our last meeting was that how did that apply? Could any of that money be used for curb and sidewalk, something like that? And I know we are looking at the issue of, what's her name? She just sent us that a note today about curb and sidewalk.
Marcia Qualls.
Marcia Qualls. And since they are still in the process of going out and shaping, measuring everything, is it possible for us to look at putting some monies in that and doing some, sending some monies over there in April? And if so, what would be the cost? I know each one of us had about 1,000 feet or so, somewhere in that neighborhood. And if we all could have, with some extra monies, double that request, and this year, and just get it done. And for the council people, districts, and then the at-large can split it like they've been doing, and we can have a better impact on our monies.
Vice President Davis, I'll follow up with clerks and with Public Works tomorrow with an email on that.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll carbon everybody else on it too.
Okay. Was that your thinking? One quick was, I don't know, were you on that same path, or were you just thinking streets? I don't know.
Yes, all above.
There's a substantial increase in local road and street funding as a result of the increase of the gasoline tax, which started, I think, last July. We know it's going to be several million plus dollars a year, and I think we articulated that our expectations would be that we would see more streets paved and more curbs and sidewalks. We haven't had any sort of a positive response yet, but there's been the lobbying for the increase in the gas tax. We've got it, and now I think people in the neighborhoods who have not seen much pavement or much curb and sidewalk work done are beginning to have some expectation. I think we need to see our delivery.
Okay.
And so with that, I just wish that we can make sure that we can move as fast as possible, given the fact that they're doing it. And if we have to come back in June and appropriate, like we just did with other monies, and transfer other funds back over there, I think, I'm all for supporting that kind of a transfer, because we transfer everything else, and so I think that we should be able to have that transferred.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I will announce that we do have an MBE-WBE meeting tomorrow. It's the Council Commission on MBE-WBE, 4 p.m. at this council. Also, at 5 p.m. here is the Utilities Kickoff Meeting, and more updates from Public Works on the flood, CSO, and issues related to that. So
We can probably pose that question about streets,
yeah,
because there will be utility and Public Works people here.
Yeah, we'll send them a primer before that. So, anything else under unfinished? Seeing none, anything new business?
Would it be possible, with regard to our agendas, that we actually identify the districts that different projects, property vacations, all that stuff, zoning, that actually be identified on the agenda? I think it historically used to be, and I think just for the public who's following along from home might be able to find that more readily.
They do it on zoning.
But on all matters that actually have a specific relation, yeah, that are district-specific, that we actually identify that on both our meeting agenda.
We'll take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Anything else on new business?
With that same concept, I would like for us to send a little note to those in area planner or any of those kind of areas. If there's a project coming in your district, I believe that area plan should direct them to talk to the council person prior to it being on any agenda and at large. I think those 4 people should be done. And that's currently is not under practice.
Okay.
So we could do that.
We'll do it.
And there was Mr. Wagner came to the meeting this afternoon, and we need a follow-up on what Mr. Wagner talked about regarding the funding for cemetery. I believe, I don't know what all, the project I went to the other day was pretty good, but I didn't know about all the funding, and so he could update, he can share that with everybody. I went to a meeting on last Wednesday for the Regina Preston and I was there for that part of it, and then there was another one on Friday. I didn't make that one because I'm still in school dealing with issues.
I'll coordinate with James to get that community investment, get an update.
I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Gavin.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else under new business? Seeing none, Gavin, fire up the old stopwatch. It is now privileged floor, the period where citizens can come talk to council members. We have 3 minutes each. You need to state your name and address. You cannot talk about anything that was on the agenda tonight. Go ahead.
Okay, Samuel Brown at 222 East Divide Street, South Bend, Indiana. I got two things I'd like to talk about real quick. Number one, I want to thank the Common Council. They voted my granddaughter, Indonesia Brown, a resolution a while back. And I want to personally thank each and every one of you guys that voted for Indonesia. Indonesia have done a remarkable job, and that resolution was special. I'd like to say she got the Eli Lilly Award. She have chosen a college which took a lot of pressure off us. She chose Notre Dame. And because of you guys, you're motivated a young child who lived in the middle of the hood, who lived across from a drug house. And that child has done remarkable because of people like you all believing in her and motivating her. I want to thank you, my whole family do. Now we're going to take up collections. The next thing I want to talk about real quick, and it's a serious issue. 1408 Elwood, the old Jewish plant. Mr. Steve Durkee have played and played with our community like he played with a toy. He created the problem. That old Jewish plant, go by there and read and look at it. They had a fire, massive fire, near an IBM substation. This is in the hands of the lawyers now. But I don't care about all that. What I do care about is the citizens that have put up with this for about 3 to 4 years now, that I know of. I didn't reach out to Mr. Durkee. I didn't talk to him. He don't have a plan. And the guy is pushing all his junk. This citizen is going to have to pay for that to be cleaned up. It ain't fair. So if we want to plan to clean that up ourselves, tell Mr. Durkee to get out of South Bend and let us move forward. I'm going to talk to Pete about this. We done took enough from this guy. He don't have the money, he don't have a plan, and the lawyers are not going to pimp us any longer. We get that site cleaned up. We deserve that. And I need something to motivate me, and that's going to be another one of my titles.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Next name and address.
Sandy? Sue Kessel, 422 Kennedy Drive. I had brought up before that we had 102 shootings and 16 deaths last year. We've had increased violence this year. One of my wishes was that we would teach the average person how to stop a bleed out. I think you might have remembered that. My wish was answered. On March 31st, there's a Stop the Bleed Day at Century Center. Beacon Health is doing 4 training sessions to teach the citizen how to apply pressure, dressing and pressure, and tourniquets. It's free to the public. Stacy, 574-647-2853, or they can sign up online. My second thing was Chief Cox sent Captain Stoneburner, his medic trainer, to my senior group. He was excellent. They loved him. One of the things they talked about was they loved when homes have these tubes. There's a sticker on the door, there's a magnet on the refrigerator, and then inside the tube is the medical information. So the medics, can grab the tube, they can get a lot of information, who the doctor is, the medications, the problem. This program has been discontinued. I would love to see funding from the city or somewhere to reenact this program. The medics would love it. I think it would be a great thing for you guys to pass out on your neighborhood walks to help the citizens. Something for the fire stations to give out and something for the medics to leave. I was going to give you samples, but Ms. Broden didn't want me to pass them out. So if you want samples, come to me.
All right, thank you. Next name and address.
These are just
Name and address.
Rod Goodchild, 837 South 24th Street. I like what we were hearing tonight. I especially like what Tim Scott said right up here. He's going to contact some people at the end when there is some business and send them an email and get an answer. I like that direct approach, Tim. Outstanding. Sure you know what I'm going to ask for next. We got an outstanding program here. 2 years it took to get the first one done. When I was asked by John Martinez today, how many times did you do that? 4 times in 2014, 15, 16, 17, the walk already, and now? How did you ever think that the good graces of the Lord would bless us so that now we got the best week ever? And Aaron Perry's staff said, you know, Rod, you got it scheduled for 3:30, but we have so many women that are working until 4:30, 5 o'clock. How can they bring their children to go and see all the trees? How can they get to all the sculpture? How can they get the prizes? How can they get to the program when they don't get off work? Could you do one at 5:30 for us also, Tim Scott? I said, absolutely. And then I heard, Oliver say that change the world. When I first came up here and I told everybody it was going to be Disney World, people were going, that my guy, he's ran too many miles. That guy has just lost his mind. He's telling us that he's got 14, 20 to 40-foot tree carvings, and they're walking around that for a half an hour with children, and it's going to be nothing else like it in the entire Midwest. Now, we're not out at Disneyland, where I started in '59, but you're starting connecting the dots. And when we heard from John Doherty, is something good enough for River Park, it's good for South Bend. It's not only River Park, the community, that's got 16 carvings, it's also the entire community of South Bend. And all I'm asking again, Tim, is my father, Neopet, Menominee tribe, Chief Menominee is here, he's in my pocket. Nothing means as much as that Potawatomi flag. We're not asking it to go anywhere else in South Bend. All we're asking for is Potawatomi. You have 4 flagpoles. The 4th one is never used, only for when you come up for the accreditation. You could raise the flag, we got it flying right out of the casino. All we're asking for, Tim, is one email to get that done. I know we did a new city flag, and it was done, and now it's flying. Can we find a way? The 29th is when we go at 3:30 and at 5:30, that the flag will be up. That's all I'm asking, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address.
Isaac Hunt, 138 East Broadway. I'm here to talk about the new Ivy Tech trailers that just popped up down the street from me. Nobody talked to the residents. We're not against the homeless. We want the homeless. I'm on the homeless committee, the Gateway Committee, but our residents don't want this in our neighborhood. We got enough social services in our neighborhood. Life Treatment Center, Broadway, Plasma Center. We can go on and on. We just put a new homeless place, residential homeless on Indiana. Let some of the rest of the city get some of the glory and work of this homeless center and these trailers. Please do not continue to invade us with the homeless issue on one side of town. This work should be spread out. I support the homeless center, support Broadway. That's why I'm on the committee. We never even heard from the committee that this was being moved in temporary located. But you know what temporary turns into? Permanent. So we want to speak out against it before it takes place. Because we got plenty of space over here across from the police department. We got plenty of space in other areas that we can put this location. So I'm asking that the council please do not pass the location of the Gateway on the southeast side of Michigan and Broadway. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Understood.
Next, name and address.
I'm Tracy Miller. I live at 229 East Broadway Street, and I want to echo what Mr. Hunt said. Those trailers would be the ticket for me to move. And I'm a tax-paying citizen and business owner in this community. And the reason that is because we are inundated with so many social services in our area, and it causes our property taxes to go down and things of that nature. So I would ask the council to not pass any ordinances or any amendments for that to stay there. As he said again, I'm in support of homeless. I support trying to help them get to where they need to go and to help them become unhomeless. But I think our neighborhood has seen enough.
Okay, enough is enough.
One other thing, I wanted to say that the tubings, the emergency tubings that the young lady has, we use them at the building that I manage, Trinity Tower, and they are excellent because a lot of the residents, which are seniors, cannot articulate what the medicines are that they use.
That's awesome. Thank you. Next, name and address.
Wanda Crum, 138 East Broadway. I'm here because I wasn't asked if I would like the pods put on Michigan Street, and I've only been in the area for like a year and a half, but the year and a half that I've been there, there's been a lot of trash everywhere, people sitting on corners, people urinating in the backyards, and so I just really don't want to see any more people who don't have a residence, and I don't want the residence put there just because people don't want it somewhere else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address, sir.
Harry March, 1520 South Carroll Street, South Bend, Indiana. I've been a lifelong resident of Southeast Side. I lived in the house I'm in now probably 60 years. The other day I went up Michigan Street and I saw the trailers that were moved over there. There were 3. I saw later there were 6. And I thought at one point that it was Ivy Tech that was moving those trailers and they were going to be using that space for classes. Well, come to find out, that's not what's happening. And it looks horrible. It brings down my property taxes. Every year, I'm down here with my property taxes doing amendments, and I win every year because I take pictures of those horrible things that are in our neighborhood over and over, and my property taxes never go up. I would love to pay the right amount of property taxes, but I want to do it fairly. And it's not fairly that I keep being inundated with negative things in my neighborhood constantly. And I would ask you not to put those trailers there, not temporarily, not permanently. I don't know how they got them moved there and why they moved them there, but they need to move them out of there because once they hook them up to electricity, they're going to be permanent. And we don't want them there.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address.
My name is Fred Teague. I live at 704 Rolling Court on the southeast side, and I'm also here to speak in opposition of the trailers. I'm working with 466 Works to try to revitalize the southeast side and, hopefully, bring some life to that area. And it's kind of hard to build up a community or area when so much trash is just steady being dumped in the neighborhood. And I'm not calling the homeless trash. I love them. I've been homeless before. I've been through the whole everything when it comes to that. I work with Broadway. I feed them guys. I give them money and whatever else. But when I looked at the market study that was just revealed, and they talk about how the potential of the south side and the southeast side, I'm like, well, I just bought a home over here and I didn't know that there was that much of a homeless problem over there. And to even add to that, it would make more sense for me if this is a gateway for the Fuse program or whatever else, for it to be concentrated somewhere near there. Put it on the grounds of the Fuse program, where they got a straight, intake process trailers to the building. But all I'm saying is we have enough, as everybody else said, on our side of town, and we shouldn't have to just bear the burden of the city's problem with the homeless. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, no, it's time for the North. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
I understand. That's our concern. Father Kevin, for the meeting with him, he was concerned that those would not be put over there. But Our Lady hungry, and then he met with me a few days ago. And, that's the concern of his congregation. So that's going to be good right there. I told you that before.
By the committee, in terms of determining the location they're on, since then, and the transit, there is no such thing as an advisory committee, and they already
The meeting schedule.
So what is that group that was? They met, that was it, they met, and we did. Came up with a report.
No, they send, right? Hey, you have services over there, they got services.